What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday to you. Welcome back here to the Die Hard MMA podcast. This week, we are talking UFC Paris, and we're coming off of just ever so slightly surviving by the skin of our teeth at last week's card. I got it, guys. I was not expecting to be as wrong as I was last week. I felt pretty good about the reads. I warned everybody, sketchy card, be careful. And if it wasn't for a couple of really solid live bets, I would have gotten my ass kicked last week. It felt good, though. I was up at 2 a.m. with all of the rest of the degenerate world watching these fights bright and early. First, 4 or 5 fights roll by, and I found myself in a 5-unit hole. It was not looking good for us because we had front-loaded the majority of our action last week. Live bets saved the night. We came out plus 0.04 units. A win is a win. I'll take it. A win is a win. But we got to do better than that. We're still on the road to 100. So got to get straight moving forward. This week, the UFC has carted everybody off to Paris, and we are headed to a new place where I got to warn you guys, I think we need to be a little bit careful this week as well, because Paris, France, unless I'm mistaken, MMA as a whole was just legalized here in this country. So there's a lot of things that I don't know. We'll be very curious to see what happens with the officiating, the judging. If the UFC is just able to bring in their, usual patented crew, Sal D'Amato in France could be, a crime scene, but we'll see what happens. It could get very sketchy very quickly. Either way, I'm looking forward to break down this fight here for you guys tonight. And to do so with me, a friend of the show, a very special guest coming back from Sherdog MMA, my guy Keith. How's it going, man? How you doing today?
Bonjour.
Bonjour.
How you doing, man? Thanks for having me back.
Yeah, of course. It's always good to talk fights with you. Thank you for coming on. Like we were talking about behind backstage there for a second, a little bit bummed. We got a bit of a shorter card to talk about after dropping a couple of fights. Were you excited at all for either of those ones that fell off on us?
Let me answer in the native tongue. Puta kisan se ga, which is French for who the fuck are these guys? Actually, that was 2 of the more action-packed fights. I could have used like Joselyne that was falling off, or Zarah or stuff like that falling off, but it is what it is.
Save us from one of those that we know is going to be a little bit rough. Hopefully we find some, local regional talent to fill in those slots there. That seems to be almost what the entire rest of this card is. Like there's a lot of people,
a lot of Europeans,
a lot of people. It's pretty rough, man. It's a little low level this week. I'll be honest with you.
That's why you brought in the low level analysts.
Oh my God. You know what? I plan my guests weeks in advance, and this is the one that worked for us. So it has no reflection or bearing on my opinion of you or your skills. But man, you know what? We got a couple interesting ones that are at the top of the card, at least, that we'll be able to break down a little bit better. We can probably save some time on some of the smaller ones there. All right, everybody, we are going to go ahead and start cracking on this card. I don't know if my guy Dixon Sider is maybe just the only one who's in the chat today, or if my StreamYard is broken, but my guy, you're the only one who I can see right now as far as highlighting the comments goes. So it might just be you and us here today. We got 76 live viewers. Everybody do us a favor, hit that like button. We're going to go ahead and talk about this card and bring all the awesome betting content to you. First fight of the night that we need to discuss is going to be Farid Basharat taking on Kleydson Rodrigues. And Keith, if you noticed, I made sure to roll out the red carpet this week. We're rocking with Sherdog. We're not using any other site to preview these fights here.
The question that got to be is, why is it just this week? Why isn't it every week, my man? The original, the OGs. There wouldn't be these records if it wasn't for the originals.
Hell yeah. No, I'll be honest with you. I am just programmed to Tapology, so it's more of a
Yeah.
habitual thing, I think, than anything else. But we might
Nah,
have to switch it
nah,
around.
Typology's good.
Last
Typology's
time you
good.
slapped me on the wrist for having the competitor
Yeah,
on.
yeah. Nah, Typology's good.
So we've got Farid, who, it's weird, Keith. Anytime we see these sibling combos, I always feel like there's an A side and a B side, right? There's one of them that's got just a little bit more
Sure.
upside. And man, I kind of labeled Farid the B side in my head, but the dude's 10-0 and undefeated. Like, it's hard to call either one of them a B side here at this point. Love everything about this guy. Made his UFC debut against Damon Blackshear, and I got to be honest, that fight has aged really well. Damon is doing things in the UFC right now, and he got the win over him, which is a really tough fight to get in your first fight in the organization. Really well rounded, long range weapons, good footwork. He does a really, really good job of like kind of skirting off to the side and retreating, walks you into these big shots, mixes up the attacks really well, goes to the legs with that hard chopping calf kick. He's got that intelligent jab that I look for. I like the way he uses that to get behind his other shots. Very slick ground game as well. His passing, when you look at this guy on top of people, the way he's able to stay heavy with the shoulder pressure and still cut that knee through to move into side control or even mount, like his grappling is beautiful. I love the Bash Bros. I'm all in on both Javid and Farid. And I have a tough time seeing him lose here in this spot. He's 3 inches taller. He's going to have a 4-inch reach advantage. Kleydson Rodrigues, 8-2. He was a real exciting prospect to get started here in the UFC, but it almost seems like this is his punishment, right? Back-to-back weight misses. He gets a fight against Tatsuro Taira, who the UFC is trying to shine that spotlight on. They have to pull him from the card because he missed weight so badly there in that fight. Now he's got to fight an undefeated Bash Bro up a weight class. And this just seems like a bigger, stronger, more talented version of CJ Vergara. And we know exactly how that fight went. You survived that early explosive period that Kleydson Rodrigues brings to the table. And don't get me wrong, he is deadly in that first round. The spinning heel kicks, the flying knees, like he is so explosive and powerful. But we've seen that cardio dip off. We've seen him slow down. We've seen him get tired. You make him grapple. You wear him out. I can't really argue with Farid being the favorite here in this spot. What do you make of this first fight of the night, Keith?
Yeah, I'll tell you this right now. I think it's one of the best fights on the card. Like they're starting off with a banger right away. I totally agree with what you said about Rodrigues. Like his, forced to come up to 135 after 2 weight misses, and they give him an absolute stud in his debut. I think Basharat's one of the best prospects in MMA. You mentioned it, very good striker. For a young guy, he's very seasoned, relaxed, calculated. He flows from both stances so well, moves well, great footwork. He's got high output, very technically sound. He uses feints really well, accurate. I love that he's one of the few guys who doubles up the jab. He goes to the body, which is a thing that's underutilized in MMA. I love his calf kicks. He throws especially when he's in the southpaw stance, his calf kicks are a thing of beauty. The one offensive issue I have with him on the feet is he probably just doesn't lack one true like fight-ending punching power. That's probably about it. And that's simply because he doesn't really sit on his punches. He's got some defense roles. He stands a little too tall for my liking. But you mentioned it. He flows well on the ground, too. Very strong wrestler. Gets inside. He likes to do like snatch singles, smothering top control, mean ground and pound. He advances position, as you said. He's a submission threat. He's got 5 subs on his record. And what I've been most impressed is I shouldn't say most impressed, but another thing that adds impressive is that he can go hard all 15 minutes. I haven't seen him slow down. Now, Rodrigues was this massive flyweight. Now, of course, I don't know if we can consider him a flyweight because he missed weight so much. That's one huge advantage right away moving up to bantamweight he lost out on. But he's very athletic. Maybe this will help him even more, moving up in weight, be a little quicker. He's got that capoeira background so he's kind of like a wild man, flying knees, spinning attacks, a lot of variety of attacks with all points of the body. My partner Ben Duffy, who I do a show with, he pointed out last time I said that, he said actually 9 points because he had one where he hit a guy he jumped in the air and hit him with his butt. So he fights in spurts. Like he likes to sit back and then all of a sudden come in and explode. He uses a lot of feints to set up his shots. And he throws a lot of hard strike, but because of his wild style, he kind of has a lower volume. He can't go all out all the time. And he also loads up a lot, so you can telegraph him. I do like that he crushes the body. He's got a good kicking game. He likes front kicks. He likes teep kicks. He likes to crush the body with some hard kicks. I like that he also, when he gets in close quarters, he starts doing that like John Jones elbow inside thing. Defensively, he rolls with punches, which I think we talked about this in the past. When you're going through the pyramid of effective defense, I actually think it's the lowest one. It's like footwork, slipping, parrying, and then rolling. Well, actually, probably pillaring is the lowest, but a strong clinch game. He'll sneak in a takedown, though I wouldn't call him a wrestler. He more kind of just dives in. He also makes the mistake of jumping on guillotines, which if he misses it, he ends up on bottom, and that's what got him in trouble against CJ Vergara. But he has 2 subs, and he's gassed out in the past. So I'm wondering going up to 135 how that's going to be. I didn't mention this. I don't bet. That. I don't know if you listen now. I'm not a bettor. I just like to do like deep dives in fights, and so if people follow bets, follow you like a proven winner. Go over to Sherdog, check out Jay Petrie, check out Sean Sheehan, follow their bets. But I just give some information, see what people think. I'm taking Basharat. I think he's more technically sound. I think he's the better wrestler. I think, at 135, I'm not sure if he has a deeper gas tank, but what we've seen so far in the UFC, he's shown a deeper gas tank. I think he beats Rodrigues everywhere. I'm tempted to take like a late round submission, but I expect Basharat by decision with him being, on the top, as you mentioned, like just really good top game. So give me Basharat by decision.
Okay. All right. I'm glad we're kind of lining up early here. And Keith, I'll be honest with you, man. That's part of the reason why we love having you. Like, this is a gambling show. Like, we're looking for opportunities to bet these fights, in every single way. But the in-depth breakdowns that you do are phenomenal. And it just is a different lens to go through.
Thanks,
you know what I mean? Like, it's like when people talk to the fighters, the athletes, the coaches, whatever, like they see things slightly differently than we do. So it's nice to have, slightly different viewpoints. The fact that you're not pushing for action, you're not looking for a bet, you're just giving straight up the analysis that you see. That information is going to be fantastic for people that are trying to find that betting opportunity. We might uncover something that they missed before, but on this one, we're going to link up pretty well the same here. I'm with you. I think it's Basharat, and I'm okay with the minus 325 price tag. I think he's parlayable here in this spot. It's that classic. You got to avoid the bink in round 1, right? Like he could absolutely get clipped early on in the fight, and that could be a problem for him. I like the late sub call too. I could see Rodrigues tiring out and having to face someone like Basharat, who's a bit bigger, a bit slicker on the ground. He might be able to find that submission that CJ Vergara wasn't quite able to get to. Real quick, got to shout out my guy Mushroom, who just became a member. And I'm trying, folks. I've been putting the pieces of the puzzle here together. What happened? And I apologize. There's 121 of you live, and I know that the chat interaction really was what got this show off the ground, being able to talk to the people that were hanging out with us live and stuff like that. That's a big part of what I do here. But apparently, Pub has a live betcast going right now for the MLB game that's going on tonight. Now, this is a relatively new thing. One of the things we've talked about doing here at Pub is paying our members back, because people that are actually paying their money to subscribe here on YouTube to support Pub Sports Radio, they deserve a little extra something. So there are shows that are happening now that are members only. And the timing is just a bitch, because apparently the show they decided to do tonight is members only. And I don't think there's a way that we can make one show members only chat and the other show not members only chat. I have already messaged a couple people trying to get a response so that we can unleash you animals in the chat here tonight. But basically, if you want to chat for this point in time, support Pub Sports Radio, folks. Become a member. Jump on in here. I'm sorry, it was unintended. This is not trying to punish any of you by any stretch of the imagination. But that's just the way that it ended up syncing up tonight with that other show that is going on. So if nothing else, folks, hit the comment section. After the show is done being live, load me up in the comments. I will try to get back to each and every one of you in a reply. So go ahead and give me your thoughts and opinions on anything that jumps off the page at you after the live stream has ended, and we can kind of converse that way a little bit as well. So again, my apologies. We got to kind of roll with the punches here tonight. So that's not the right button. Neither is that. What are they doing to me? See, they do this to me every single time, Keith. It bugs the hell out of me because they mess up my buttons and then I never know where the damn, see, look at that. And it worked when I tried to show it the first time, but for some reason, there it goes. All right.
You're pretty good at that, man.
Oh,
I use the same program, and I'm not nearly as good as that.
It's so frustrating, man, because we've got like these saved settings for people. And since we have so many different shows here at Pub Sports Radio, there's just not enough of them for the layouts that people like. So they always fuck with mine for some reason. I'm like, why am I the one who always gets his settings messed with? Anyway, all right, next fight up, we've got Ange Loosa taking on Rhys McKee. And if you recall the name Rhys McKee, it's probably because you remember the UFC absolutely throwing this poor kid to the wolves. This kid was supposed to be kind of a big deal, right? Like everyone was super high on Rhys McKee, 0-2 in his first UFC run. And they were like, hey, here's Khamzat. Like, what the? Okay. And then so he gets murdered by Khamzat. We all knew that was coming. And they throw him in there with Alex Morono. Now, I don't know if that second fight was them maybe expecting more from Rhys and he just wasn't quite at that level, or if they really just threw him to a guy like Morono. Either way, he got his face beaten to a pulp in that first round by Morono, who's not a guy you really consider a power puncher. He's more of a volume guy. I know he likes to go to war with people, but the way he busted Rhys McKee's head up in that first fight was definitely concerning for somebody who we've been considering a prospect for a long time. Now, after that 0-2 skid here in the UFC, he went back to Cage Warriors. He's on a 3-fight finish streak, and he's looking real good coming back in. 27 years old, tall, lanky, nice long jab, good timing, but he is a little slow, Keith. He's kind of got the tall man's defense thing going on. He doesn't really move his head a whole lot, and that's very, very concerning to me. He does like to stay right in front of his opponents. He cuts the cage off really well. He's very aggressive. Sometimes he'll dip his head a little predictably when he rolls in here for punches and stuff like that. I do like that front kick that he uses to maintain the range and attack his opponent's body and stuff like that. But it seems this kid never saw a right hand he didn't want to eat. Like you go back and you watch his tape, that overhand right hits him every single time. He will have a 4-inch reach advantage here in this spot. But Loosa at 9-3, 29 years old, training at Kill Cliff FC, 3-3. This is a bit more of a level of opponent that Rhys should be facing here to go ahead and get started. But man, I almost feel like Ange Loosa might be flying under the radar just a little bit. Like his losses are all by decision. This guy's made out of iron. Like he might gas just a little bit, but at the same time, he's able to kind of redline and dig through it, right? He's got that toughness to go ahead and power through. He falls back on the wrestling when he needs to. He's got good pull counters. His striking looked very improved in his last fight. And he's got big explosive power shots when he sits down on his punches. He's going to be very, very fast in this fight, I feel like, Keith. I think he's going to have a big speed advantage. And he's got a nuke of a right hand. And I brought up the Rhys McKee right hand for a reason, because he's got no defense for it. It's going to be there all night. And if Loosa is faster than this kid, he'll come over the top with that right hand, and he might hurt him. Ange Loosa also has really good takedown defense. Like if he wants this fight striking, it's staying on the feet. Jack Della Maddalena 0-3, Lazez 0-2, Fletcher 0-4, 100% takedown defense. This guy's never been put on the ground when he hasn't wanted to be there, and he's never been finished. I really came into the show tonight, Keith, going, you know what? Rhys McKee, second opportunity at life in the UFC, plus 165 dog. Sign me up. That's absolutely going to be the side that I'm on. And then I ran the tape and I'm like, oh my God, like he beat a couple questionable guys in Cage Warriors to fight his way back to the UFC. And then they're giving him a guy that presents all the problems that he's struggled with at the higher level. You know what I mean? Like it's not that easy. I don't really want to lay minus 195, minus 200 on Ange Loosa, but I think I've got to pick him to go ahead and win this fight, Keith. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, so I think it's an interesting matchup. Loosa, I mean, he's shown that he's a pretty quality UFC talent. I love that stat you said about his takedown defense. That's really impressive, especially against the guys he faced. Yeah, on the feet, very high output striker. He's a meat and potatoes type striker, so he just sticks to the basics, and he's very good at the basics. So I mean that as a compliment. He works behind a jab. You mentioned the straight right. That was the kind of what I have my star around too. Very accurate. I love that he attacks with combos. I like that. I think I've mentioned this before. When a guy attacks, the best strikers will actually attack, and they'll be switching their stance in mid combination, so they cut in different angles. Perfect examples: Alex Volkanovski does that. Izzy Adesanya does that. Anderson Silva does that. Now, of course, I'm not comparing him to those guys, but I'm just saying, like the blueprint. The one thing he does that I hope he fixes, he tends to observe his work a little bit, like admire his work. So he kind of watches his shot a little bit, which instead of bringing his punches back to his face, so he kind of leaves him open to be countered. That someone with a real quick twitch is gonna tag him for that. But I like that he goes to the body. He did struggle. Like the key to McKee is to keep that distance, because Loosa did struggle to get in the inside against Munar Lizez in. Which is kind of the one advantage McKee really has, is that size. But he showed like he has a hell of a chin, because Munar like teed off on him, and he just kept coming. And even like body shots, he kept coming through. He gets inside. He likes like inside kicks. I hate that he pillars on defense. And for those who don't know what pillaring is, I call the Tito Ortiz defense, where you kind of hide behind your arms. It's very boxing style, because in boxing you have those big gloves. You kind of can. MMA is much harder. He will sneak in a takedown or two, but I wouldn't say he's a wrestler. But you mentioned it, his takedown defense has been off the chart so far, and he's got really good cardio. I mean, he was in a war against Les. He just kept going. He did gas out against AJ Fletcher, but I think that's more of a Salt Lake City thing. They were fighting there, so I'm kind of giving him a pass on that. Now, and on top of that, he still won that fight. Yeah. So he slowed down, but he still had like that inner gumption to still find a way to win. Rhys McKee.
I tried to critique his gas there too, Keith. Like I put in my notes, I'm like, Ange Loosa gasses. And then I went back and I watched that exact fight and I was like, delete?
Yeah. Well, it was Salt Lake City. And he still, he found a way. Like, it didn't look good, but he still had like the balls to fight through that. Like some guys would gas and not be able to fight through it. He showed that he's mentally tough. You got to almost use it as a positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then the fight before that, he was like, had crazy output the whole time in a war. So, take that for what it's worth. McKee, he's not a strong athlete, but I'll say this: he did look good since he's been outside the UFC. Again, I mean, he took on Jimmy Wallhead, who's has had a pretty decent career. He's a long and lengthy striker, technically sound. He pumps out a jab, which is definitely his like go-to weapon. Decent pop. He throws a lot of calf kicks, though he often throws them without a setup, which can get him tagged at the highest level. He's good from range, but he can be drawn into a brawl, which is not a smart thing for him, because he's instantly limiting his own like physical God-gifted tools. He stands tall, which is an issue for a lot of tall guys. He stands up too high. He lacks head movement, as you said, back straight up. He doesn't like pressure either. I mean, even a fight like against Jimmy Wallhead, where he was way ahead, Wallhead's pressure was making a closer fight than it should have been. He's a weak offensive and a weak defensive wrestler. I mean, he was taken down by Alex Morono. I mean, Alex Morono's not Bo Nickel. I mean, and Alex Morono's not really known for his wrestling, and Morono was taken down pretty easy. He was, I mean, even in a blowout win against Jimmy Wallhead, he was taken down. He does have 3 submission wins. One thing I like about McKee is he's what I call a builder. He's one of these guys. He gets stronger as the fight goes on. Like his output increases, which is
seems like he's built for 5.
Yes, which he doesn't have the talent around it, but his cardio is. So if the third round, he's going to be coming as hard as he was in the first round. I think there's a solid scrap. I think McKee is a little bit better than I remembered him. I think if this stays on the feet, this could be a pretty good matchup. But I'm taking Loosa in a pretty close battle. I think he gets past the range, and I think he just has a huge wrestling edge that if he just turns into a wrestling match, should be an easy victory for him. So I'll go with Loosa. I'll go with the favorite by decision.
Couldn't agree more. I like that a lot. I wouldn't be shocked if we see a knockout. Now, McKee has shown off he's been pretty tough. He does have a solid chin on him, so that's definitely something that could happen here, is that he's able to weather the storm. And Loosa just wins 2 out of the 3 rounds, survives the third, that kind of thing. Hey, if you guys want to sprinkle that draw on this one, a 10-8 for Rhys with Loosa surviving is absolutely on the table, and that draw is always 50-1. So if you think Ange Loosa can win 1 and 2, and then Rhys can 10-8 him without finishing him in round 3, you need that little degenerate flavor. That's something to look at in this fight for sure. Shout out to C. Dell here becoming a member. Thank you very much. Hey guys, I'm going to repeat it a couple times over the course of the show. Audio listeners later in the week, I apologize to you all very much. But what's happening on the live show here on Monday is that there is another sister twin show going on here on Pub Sports Radio live at the same time that is a members only show. So because it's members only, unfortunately, we can't do one members only and one not members only when they're live at the same time. So that's why the chat has been shut down. If you guys want to support us here at Pub Sports Radio, we would very much appreciate that. Consider becoming a member. Jump on here in the chat with me and we'll go ahead and get it chopping up. I will talk to the powers that be and make sure they don't do these kinds of shows on my Mondays from now on, though, because I feel like that's pulling the rug on you guys just a little bit too hard, who are always here supporting us and jumping in the chat week in and week out. But all right, we're on the same side here for the second fight of the night, Keith. We have got Ange Loosa taking the dub. And our guy, Nonstop Philly, member for 6 months, saying any non-member thinking about becoming one, do it. Come join us in this members only chat. I appreciate you, Non-Philly, really do. And especially with football season and shit coming up, there's a lot of reasons to be a member. So it actually would work out for you. All right, next fight. We've got UFC newcomer Nora Cornolle. Cornell. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. She is taking on UFC staple Joselyne Edwards. And I've got a real bone to pick on this one, Keith. I really do. So Joselyne Edwards and we just don't see eye to eye. We just don't have a good time together. All right. She's 13-4, back-to-back wins via split over Kim and Pudilova. And I'm kind of certain she lost both of those. Like I'm pretty sure she lost both of those fights. And then on top of that, she was moonlighting at 145 up against a Ramona Pascal. And I put not a big bet, but I put a bet on Ramona Pascal because I thought the extra size, the extra power, the strength, she'd be able to handle her. And Ramona had this girl hurt in round 1 and then just did nothing for the rest of the fight. So like, Joselyne Edwards, I feel like, is barely hanging on to her UFC roster slot here, but she manages to keep winning. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters. She keeps winning. She's on a 3-fight win streak at this point, but she keeps a nice high pace, good volume. She's always attacking in 4 and 5 punch combos. She regular 100+ significant strikes in her fights. Not a problem for her at all. She's got a good solid push kick that she uses to control that distance and range, and she really needs that to operate at her best. But Keith, she has no power at all. None to speak of whatsoever. Like, this girl could not hurt anybody with her fists. Seems like she's been on the right side of some variance with those judges and the split decisions. I feel like that's eventually, got to bite her and go the other direction in these close, tight fights. And the one thing that I want to make a real point on here is Joselyne Edwards is weak to the body. One of the reasons why I bet on Ramona was that extra size, that extra weight, and the knees, because Ramona, the one real good offense that she ever had was her clinch knees. And we saw those buckle Joselyne a couple times. She managed to dig deep, stay in that fight. And then Ramona, obviously not UFC caliber, ended up getting cut from the organization. Just didn't do enough going forward to capitalize on that. I think somebody who's a bit more vicious, a bit more brutal, is going to land a big shot to Edwards' midsection and put her down. Now, she's only 27 years old. So technically speaking, she's getting these squeezing by decisions done at the right time. She's still got some upside. She's got lots of room to grow and improve. Looks like she did this camp at Extreme Couture in Vegas, one of my favorite places to see people training. But man, she is bringing on this newcomer, 6-1, who's the local girl from France. She's 34 years old with 7 professional fights. I mean, this kind of has like trash can dumpster fire written all over it. She's the local flavor because we're in France, and she's on the card because we're in France. She is not good, Keith. Like I ran the tape on this girl. The competition is soft, like so low level. It's scary. And then she won her last fight with this like stomping push kick that frankly looked like it almost missed. But she hit this girl who was 4-2 in just the right spot, and she just sat down. She's like, nope, I'm done after that one. And the fight before that, she got the weakest TKO I've ever seen. Like, this girl failed on a head and arm throw. She ends up getting the back, and the ref steps in and stops it because she wasn't defending herself, and she's 0-0. So like, she wasn't really hurting her. She wasn't really doing damage. This 0-0 girl had no answer for her being on her back. So the ref saved her. It wasn't a real stoppage. So even the finishes that this girl has on her record, some of them are a little sketchy, man. Some of them are a little questionable. And she's got bad cardio, Keith. She's got her mouth hanging open within 3 minutes. And she literally like drops her arms and is like sitting there with her jaw sagging, like shaking her arms out at the 5-minute mark. At the very end of the first round, she's trying to find that second win. So not even close to UFC caliber. The one thing I will say is she's got nasty Muay Thai in the clinch. If she tangles with you, she's got big knees and she's got big elbows. And that is the exact recipe for a body shot KO on Joselyne Edwards. So I've got a real problem betting this fight either way, because this girl is legitimately being put on a stage where she could potentially shine against an opponent who has a very wide opening for the one thing she does well, and it's a close to pick 'em line. Now, you can say I'll take the -120 on Joselyne Edwards and just try to fade that body shot and say, you know what? I know I've got the girl that can fight at the UFC level. I know I've got the more technical fighter. Let's roll the dice on Joselyne Edwards. Or you can take that puncher's chance on Nora at +100, maybe look for a KO prop when the lines drop a little bit later on in the week. But either way, this fight is gross to me, Keith. It really is. I kind of feel like we're going to see a finish here, because if Nora cannot get that early finish on Joselyne Edwards, not that Joselyne hits hard or anything, but I just don't think Nora's got the gas to go 15 against someone who's going to keep punching her. I could see her just cave and fall over if she doesn't get the early finish. Weird fight. Be very, very, very careful, everybody. Be super careful fighting on this one, or putting your money here on this one. But I can't wait to hear what you've got to say here, Keith.
Yeah, this is the worst fight on the card. Joselyne knows she's a massive woman. Like, she's long, lengthy kickboxer. You mentioned high volume, quick hands. The hands come. She hangs them low, so they kind of come from her hips. So it's kind of hard seeing them coming. But it leaves some holes defensively, though. It's funny that you say she doesn't really hit hard. I think she hits a little harder than you say, but it's funny because the way she fights, she loads up so much. You would and her size, you'd expect her to be the big cracker in the division, and she's not. Like, it's like, I agree with you there. I think her kicks are hard. Like, she throws some pretty hard kicks, especially ones up the middle. She also has a little bit of mean streaker. She has that like a John Jones oblique kick thing going. She makes a mistake of throwing a lot of naked leg kicks, though, and she avoids shots by pulling her head straight back. You mentioned it. Ramona Pascal did hurt her to the body, but her plum clinch, because of her height, when she's on the offensive, she initiates the plum clinch, so she locking down her elbows, Anderson Silva, Rich Franklin style. Those knees and elbows inside are tough because she's so much bigger than her opponents. She'll occasionally look for a takedown, but she is definitely not a wrestler. I mean, she's a terrible defensive wrestler, struggles to get off her back. And she also makes the mistake of trying to play jiu-jitsu on her back, trying to throw up subs with her long legs. Now, she does have 3 submissions, but usually it just costs her just staying on bottom. Now, Cornolle, she's hard. Like, she's hard to evaluate because you mentioned it. She's faced such low-level competition. And yeah, I saw the fight you're talking about where she was really gassed out. She also has such quick finishes against these low-level competition. I also saw the fight where you talked about where she came out on the back door on a headlock. But if you remember, she actually got headlocked. Like, she got headlocked. And then I think it was again, like, the girl threw her again, and this time the girl missed it. And that's when she slowly worked her way out. What I've seen of her, she's a Muay Thai striker, good power, but she keeps her chin really high in the air. Weak. I haven't seen much offensive wrestling, but weak takedown defense. If she's on top, pretty decent ground and pound. She does have a submission win. I mean, this one, you said it's a weird fight. I'm with you. Due to the lack of film on Cornolle, like, I wouldn't, like, I'm not a bettor anyways, but I wouldn't bet on this. I'm gonna go with Edwards. I'm just because, like, she has this God-given length and size and long legs and all that. She can kind of stay on the outside. So take the Edwards, leave the Cornolle.
I like it. No cannolis here. All right. I'm going to lean with you on the Edwards side here. Just like I said, better fighter, proven fighter, fought at this level before. If she can just keep this girl off her, that's all it takes. That's all it takes for her to win this fight. If she's just not fighting in the clinch, she wins this fight. So, Edwards, if you're listening, just stay the hell away from this girl. Use the push kick, use the jab. She'll tire out in the first round, and then she'll be useless in rounds 2 and 3, and it'll be an easy win there for you. All right, and we said that was the worst fight on the card. However, Zarah Fairn takes on Jacqueline, and unless I'm mistaken, they actually pronounce this Cavalcanti. Even though it's spelled Cavalcanti, it's pronounced Cavalcanti. I'm not sure if maybe that's just the announcer for her last fight trying to get fancy with the last name or how that actually works. We'll find out because my guy John Attic always does his homework and makes sure he says these fighters' names the right way. So we'll figure it out on Saturday. But Zarah Fairn, 6-5 in the UFC. 6-5 overall, 6-3 UFC. 36 years old, so definitely beyond the point of being considered any kind of a prospect. She is huge, Keith. She's absolutely massive. You know, her last fight against everyone's new favorite Nunes, I couldn't believe that those two were in the same weight class. Like, it just made no sense to see them sharing the octagon together, and I did bite. I took a little taste, a little sprinkle on Fairn at gigantic odds because of that height and reach advantage. So I was like, if she could just keep this girl away from her, she's going to win this fight. And it was close. She tired out. She lost the second round. She kind of caught a second win. The third round was competitive. They end up scoring it for Nunes. It is what it is. But it was a tough fight. But it was probably the best fighting effort we've seen from Fairn in the UFC, and she still lost that fight. So I really don't have any confidence in her whatsoever. If she doesn't knock you out early, she's big, she's slow, she tires out, and she slows down. She's not someone who's going to be around for much longer, even if she does manage to win this one. Jacqueline comes in here at 5-1, 25 years old. She fought in the LFA, she fought in the PFL. This is not like Nora in the last time. This is an actual potential prospect. This is an actual fighter who the UFC might want to get behind, but the roles are reversed here because the fighter from France that's being paraded here in Zarah Fairn is the sacrificial lamb for them to go ahead and build this girl and get her resume started here in the UFC. I like everything I see about her. I mean, she's low on the experience side, but she's a nice long striker. She's got smooth, accurate hands, good boxing. She very patiently kind of wades her way into range, and she does a good job of ending those combos with a hard leg kick. You love to see those at the end of them. I've seen her get a body lock takedown. I mean, she has no idea what she's doing on the ground. So once she gets down, she let her opponent back up because after she got the body lock takedown, she legitimately looked confused, Keith. She was like, okay, what do I, she threw like one or two punches and then was like, no. Like, we'll just stand up. So she needs to work on that ground game, quite obviously. But when she does get in top position, she does have aggressive ground and pound. Her only loss is by split decision. She's good, but she's green. Like that's all I can say about her is that she seems like she's got all the pieces of the tools. She's got all the pieces of the puzzle. She's just not quite there yet. And here she is, a -375 favorite. I lost money on Zarah Fairn dos Santos last time out. I don't think I've got the stomach to go back and do it again. She is a +295 dog, and I think that's way wide, Keith. I really do. Like, this fight is gonna play out closer than that. You know, I don't think that this girl is going to just run through Zarah. Maybe she volumes her up and gets like a late finish or something like that, but this should primarily be a kickboxing match, and it'll be maybe a volume versus power type of situation. So I think it's going to be far closer than the line suggests, but I still have to go ahead and pick Jacqueline to get her hand raised at the end of it. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, another weird fight. I mean, think about this for a second. The girl that wasn't good enough to make the PFL is now a almost -400 favorite in our UFC debut against like one of the biggest human beings I've seen in women's MMA. Yep. But I think you might be being a little tough on our friend Zarah Fairn. I mean, because if you think about it, her first two fights in the UFC, Megan Anderson, Felicia Spencer. I mean, two former title challenges. And then against Joselyne Nunes, I mean, she only had a 1 foot reach advantage on her. I mean, that's it. That's all she had. Just a whole foot, you know? So I think you're being
a foot.
Yeah, that's it. Like, come on. You're a little tough on her. She was a foot taller than her. It looked like
if you can't keep someone off you when you've got a foot.
Yeah, it looked like a third grader fighting a ninth grader, and the third grader put their hands on him.
It really did.
Yeah. So like Fairn is huge. I mean, if she looks more like a 205 pounder, and now she's going from featherweight down to bantamweight. Like I'm really worried about her cardio, being that she was a huge featherweight. She's tall, she's long and lengthy. Like she's not just like Joselyne Edwards, she's long, she's thick too. So she's always had high output. So I wonder how that's going to be coming down in weight. She works behind a jab. It's a pretty good jab, though. Like she was doing well against Felicia Spencer briefly with her jab. She got some plus power. She has a lot of defensive holes, though. She leans straight back to avoid shots. She hates being pressured. She wants to be the one coming forward. She backs straight to the cage, chin high in the air. But the biggest issue is her ground game is like ridiculously bad. No takedown defense at all. Yeah, no takedown defense at all. No get-up game. No submission defense. I mean, Spencer smoked her on the ground. Megan Anderson smoked her. Megan Anderson's a terrible ground fighter herself, and she mounted her, and and cardio is bad, and I doubt that it's gonna be better at 135 than it was at 145. So,
do we think it's even gonna happen, Keith? Like, do you really see Fairn making 135?
I don't know. That's a great question. What's the betting line on that?
I wish they gave us odds.
Can I get like a 2-1 odds or something? Like I'd lay some money on that.
Right?
Yeah. What I love about Cavalcanti, however you say her name, is she's super young. Like I think she's 26, just turned 26. She flows between two stances. She goes orthodox, southpaw. She kind of gets her opponent guessing. She slides in the pocket well. She's definitely a pocket boxer. Fast hands, accurate. I like her right or straight right. You mentioned she attacks with combinations. I like defensively that she parries punches, which not a lot of people do. So if for those who don't know what parrying punches is, it's basically you throw a punch at me and I catch it, but I push it down and I almost spring off your punch and like punch you back at the same time. It's something I love when I see people doing it. A lot of like hand fighting and all that. Good power, and she's not even in her power years yet. Usually about 28, 29 is when you're really kind of coming into your power year. So I wonder how she's going to look as she gets older. A lot of calf kicks. She does throw some naked calf kicks. I'm a little worried about that. And she doesn't check leg kicks, which I don't like. You mentioned not much of a ground game, but I've seen her have some solid takedown defense. Especially in her last fight. She has no subs on her record, but strong cardio. In her last fight, she went 25 minutes, and she was putting combinations deep. The 25th minute, she was still throwing like 5-punch combinations. If this fight takes place in the feet, Fairn has an okay shot. I still like Fairn. I'm going with the age. Even though Cavalcanti has not shown much in the grappling, I still give her the edge because she's at the edge, because she's at the edge where she can continue to make improvements. I don't think what is she, 36, 39, something like that. Like Fairn is just going to suddenly like get better on the ground. Like I don't think it's gonna happen, but like the 25-year-old could.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So I think she finds a way to get inside. I think she throws combinations. I like Cavalcanti. I don't think she's going to get far out there, especially if it's in the stand up. So I'll say Cavalcanti wins by decision, but I think it's going to be like a blowout decision win.
Okay, I don't mind that one bit. I like it. This girl is young. She is in shape. Keith mentioned all the good things. She's got great cardio. She's built well, actually, for this weight class. So even, you know what? I wouldn't be shocked, Keith, if Zarah comes in and she's like 4 or 5 pounds over and they're just like, fuck it. Get in there anyway. Like, we don't care. Go for it. And then she ends up getting, gas bag TKO'd in the second or the third round or something. I can totally see that situation playing out. So be careful, everybody. It's low level women's MMA here, and we've got a $3 favorite. What could possibly go wrong? So buyer be warned out there here on this one. All right. That's not the right fight. I forgot to change it over to the next tab here. The next fight we're talking about here is Morgan Charriere. I have no idea how to say this guy's name. Taking on Manolo Zecchini. Guys, this is brutal. I was better with the Asian names than I am with the French and Italian names this week.
It's called Zecchini.
Okay, Manolo Zecchini. I like that a lot. I like that. Much
Like
better.
like
Okay.
Rose Namajunas
Milano's
probably just pulled it from like the backyard.
Yeah. I don't know how I'm going to survive the rest of this with those names, man. All right, so we're just going to go on a first name basis here. Morgan, who is 18-9-1, 27-year-old, coming from Cage Warriors, which, by the way, my guy Dix Insider mentioned earlier in the evening. Cage Warriors has been on a bit of a rough skid lately, man. They've been kind of outed at the UFC level, starting to show that these Cage Warriors, even the champions, are not necessarily destined for gold in the UFC. So we maybe have to kind of pump the brakes on these guys that are coming in hot right out of Cage Warriors, especially with a record of like 18-9-1. But anyway, Morgan is very measured, I guess is a good way of saying it. He's a bit low paced. He's almost a bit of a Sam Alvey. Shout out to my guy Sam Alvey making it back to a karate combat, baby. We're gonna see him put the gloves on again. You'll love to see it. But this guy cuts the cage off. He's another one that stays right in front of his opponents. He does have a long jab and a big right cross. He's got power, but the thing is, Keith, like if you run all of his fights back, almost every single one, even the announcers are like, yeah, his coaches are going nuts. He's not pushing the pace enough. Yeah, that's always the knock on him. He just doesn't push the pace enough. Like everyone talks about, if he would just push the pace a little bit more, like that's this guy's problem. He just does not push the pace ever. He's so measured. It's it's to the point of being a detriment to him because he can't get guys out of there that he otherwise maybe would be able to finish. Bro has 8 decision losses on his record, 8 of them. And you wonder how many of those maybe could have gone his way if he had just pushed a little faster, maybe a little harder. Maybe he could have got on somebody when he's got them hurt. He doesn't have the highest killer instinct I've ever seen. It's concerning. That's not the kind of guy I want to be putting my hard-earned money on, Keith. I'll be honest with you. Milano Zecchini, on the other hand, 11-3. 26 years old, so a couple of young bucks going at here. This guy's real aggressive pressure striker. Likes to come forward, really nice head movement. Long kicks, really long kicks. He dips and rolls his way in. He fades back just out of range. He's got big knees. He likes to work those in the clinch. He's got great timing. One of his most recent KOs was he like clipped this guy at distance. He's backing away, realizes he's hurt, and just sprints at him, Masvidal style, flying knee, catches the guy as he's like, I think he was maybe going to shoot a takedown, so he was kind of tipping off to the side just a little bit, blasts him with a knee. Dude didn't get up for 10 minutes. Like, this kid has brutal power. I like Milano a lot. He is first team, all violence, my kind of guy. So what we've got on this fight is it looks like they've got the betting lines all out of order here on me. Let's see here. Where you at, Milano? I'm going to have to find you the old-fashioned way. It's Manolo. I've been saying that backwards this whole time. No wonder. All right. We've got Morgan as a minus 310 favorite. The underdog, Manolo Zecchini, is a plus 250 underdog. I haven't bet this one yet, Keith, but I'm very tempted here on the underdog just because this fight, if it's your classic Morgan fight, means it's going to be a close decision. It's going to be a close competitive fight. So even if he wins, it could be a 29-28 or even a split decision type of win, meaning you're super live with the judges at plus 250. And on top of that, if these guys go at it and they bang it out, Manolo's the kind of guy I want that's going to go for it. If his opponent is hurt, he will absolutely put the nail in the coffin here. He's also the kind of fighter that we see with the UFC lately, Dana White's Contender Series, all that stuff. This is the guy they're looking for. They want the guy who's going to go for it. They want the guy that's going to produce the highlight. So even though he's not the one on home territory here, I kind of think Manolo's the betting side, at least, if you're going to take a shot on this one. What do you think, Keith?
Yeah, this is an intriguing fight. The most exciting thing about Morgan is probably his nickname, the Last Pirate. Everything else, dude, the guy's a low output striker, can be way too patient, but his tools are good though. I mean, he's got fast hands, tight inside boxing, very good left hook. He has got power in both hands. I mean, despite being really boring and everything you're saying about like refusing to pull the trigger, he still has 10 knockouts, which shows you like imagine if he did let his hands go, how many knockouts he'd have.
Right.
He's got heavy leg kicks. I mean, going to this, I watched his last fight. I think it was a Diego Silva, where he kicked. Am I mixing up? I might be wrong about that. He kicked him twice and dropped. Yeah, he is. I don't remember who it was now.
He like took him off his feet. Yeah, he absolutely put him down on his butt twice.
Yeah, it was Diego Silva. Okay, yeah, twice. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching this to do tape studies, so I know what the outcome is. But if I was watching live, I'd be like, oh well, this is gonna be a quick knockout. Like this, he was so much superior. And then his opponent just started cruising himself and was like, okay, like this guy's better than me. I'm just gonna hang on for a decision. He ended up actually getting knocked out late. But as soon as like Morgan committed to like go for the kill, he knocked him out. It's like, dude, you could have done that like 12 minutes ago or something like that. So he throws out a lot of hard calf kicks. He also throws them naked, but he's one of the few guys who actually checks leg kicks, which I like. He's a good grappler. I wouldn't call him a wrestler. Like he's not a strong wrestler, but he's got 3 subs on his record. Pretty hard to take down. And he's physically strong. You look at the guy. The guy's ripped. Zecchini, I don't know how you say his name. He's very young. He's like 26 years old. Very aggressive, as you mentioned. I love that he leads with his left hook. Like he'll do this like looping. It reminds me of Kevin Randleman when he knocked out Mirko Krokop, where you're throwing this power punch, but it's also more to like close distance. He can be very wild. He loads up on everything. He can overthrow his shots, so it's leaving open to be countered. But he throws heat, man. And you mentioned he has power. He's got 9 KO wins. You mentioned that flying knee on his last fight. He's exciting. You watch Hard Knocks. I mean, you're a football guy.
Yeah, you know what? I didn't get to watch Hard Knocks this season, unfortunately. I do love my football though.
Okay, but all right. So I've been watching it because it's one of my favorite shows, and even though it's kind of lost on than it used to be, but yeah. Anyways, the saying is all gas, no brake. That's how this guy fights. He's on the gas the whole time. He's got a good, very quick high kick, like the sneaky high kick. He doesn't check leg kicks. He does make the mistakes of dropping his hand. Some of that is because of his style. He will wrestle, but it isn't good. Like he's not a strong. I mean, he's European. Like or I should say that he's the Western Europe. He's not Eastern Europe. So if he gets a takedown, it's usually like catching a kick or something like that. He has one submission win. He has gassed out in the past, but that's because he has this reckless style. Is Zecchini, however, if I'm saying his name wrong,
we're just going to call him Zucchini. I like it.
Zecchini, yeah. I know that's not how it is, but whatever. He could win by just having more output and just like Morgan's lack of output. One of these ones where Morgan's landing the cleaner shots, but he loses because he's losing the optics of the other guy just throwing, and maybe not even landing as clean, but just throwing. It reminds me of who's the guy that just fought Cub Swanson? Where I thought he beat Cub Swanson, but the black guy there.
Oh, the Hakeem Dawodu decision where everybody was up.
Yeah. But like this is how Morgan fights. Like Hakeem Dawodu has all these great tools, but refuses to like let him go. Like if he stepped on the gas, he clearly would. I mean, before I get crucified, I thought he should have won. But I mean, like the optics sometimes hurts you. Yeah. So if I could see be one of these ones you mentioned in the start of the show, this France, new to MMA and stuff, not the most seasoned judges. I could see that. But the thing is, Morgan is sharp though. Like he really does have the tools. I mean, he could be a really good fighter. I think he's going to kick out Zecchini's legs. I think he's going to brutalize his calves. And I think Zecchini's this balls to the walls guy that he's going to be aggressive. He's good. He's going to. I just can't imagine Morgan not throwing back when Zecchini's just putting the pressure on him. And I think he just walks right into a kill shot. I'm going to say Morgan gets a late knockout. I'll see he does it in the 3rd round.
Okay. All right. I can see that just as clear as the other outcomes here, Keith. This is one that, as much as I think from a money line perspective, it's dog or pass, I can't see myself betting this fight. Like maybe a live bet would be better here on this one. This is exactly, and I'm so glad you brought up the Hakeem Dawodu fight. I begged people, Keith. I begged people, do not parlay Hakeem because he fights to a split decision every time. Every damn time. He refuses to pull away from his opponent. He could, and he doesn't. Every single fight. That's this guy. That's Morgan. It's the exact same thing. Like, he is not going to pull away unless he finishes. Now, with Zecchini, I have no idea what his cardio looks like. He's got a bunch of round 1, round 2 KOs on his record. He does have a decision sprinkled in here or there.
He's gassed because he's just like he's going nonstop.
Exactly. If he comes out Dana White's Contender Series style and tries to get that first round finish, he's probably a dead man walking. Because if he lights Morgan up in round 1, but Morgan survives, that's what I'm talking about. Live bet Morgan. Take the even money on the better fighter who can last longer and expect him to come back in the fight at that stage. But again, I'm not sure who ends up winning this fight and how, because all of it comes down to game plan. All of it comes down to how they measure themselves. If this kid, Manolo, comes out measured and paced, I think he can win this fight because he can match or better that pace that Morgan's going to put out there. If he comes out hard, yeah, Morgan probably gets the better of him late in the fight and wins rounds 2 and 3 or gets a late finish on him because Manolo doesn't really know how to pace himself. So you guys, you got to be careful here. You got to watch this one. For the sake of the show, I will pick Morgan, but I'm definitely not laying that price tag pre-flop. That's how we'll do it. All right. Real quick, everybody. It is break time. We lost 2 fights already on this card. Again, apologies to you 174 people in the chat who were blocked out tonight. They made it members only because there's another show going on here at Pub Sports Radio. I know you can't talk to me, but do me a favor and hit the like button anyway, please. I would very much appreciate it. Keith is rocking here with us from Sherdog MMA. Make sure you give him a follow over on socials. His weekly show is also awesome, very informative, good, solid breakdowns. And let's pay a couple bills here real quickly. First and foremost, Pub Sports Radio. Obviously, you guys, we do a weekly fight giveaway. It's a pick'em contest. Pick your fighter, pick your method, pick your round, and winner gets $100 every single week on the house. So all you got to do is beat the other contestants and you can win $100 right here. Free to sign up. Go check it out. Next up, Spectation Sports. If you're into regional shows, MMA, watching these stars rise up, they've got a lot of organizations that UFC, Fight Pass, they don't cover. This is kind of the competitor to Fight Pass. There's a lot of awesome shows like Aries FC on here. We've got Attitude MMA and Cage Titans both coming up. It's been a slow month for them, but September is right around the corner. There's a bunch of events coming. Use promo code DIEHARD. You'll get a 20% off on that. And if you want to keep an eye out for these rising Dana White's Contender Series types of contenders, you can see them right here at Spectation Sports, especially for the gamblers. Definitely worthwhile. Make sure you check out the Sharp app. Like I mentioned before, we're all big fans of football around here, right? Like we like to DJ out on football, baseball, basketball, hockey. It's all coming back. Models, articles, projections. The Sharp app has you covered on all of those bases, as well as professional content creating coaches that put their bets out in the Sharp app Discord. Make sure you check that out. Links to all of these are going to be in the description below. I'll stick them in there after the live stream is over. Make sure you check that out. And finally, our new sponsor right here is Bet Openly. For those of you who are in places like California, for instance, where sports gambling is not legalized, but fantasy betting is, somehow Bet Openly is classified as a fantasy platform, so you actually can access these lines based on that. They've got Dana White's Contender Series. I know there's certain states where even though betting is legalized, for whatever reason, they don't get to Dana White's Contender Series. You can sign up and get them right here on Bet Openly. It's peer-to-peer. You're not betting with a house. Therefore, there's reduced juice. It's 1% juice. So your minus 110 line elsewhere is plus 100 here. You're going to get better odds, better numbers every time without fail. We're going to talk about it, Keith, here in just a minute. We are not there yet, but the very first bet that I made on this card was none other than Benoit Saint-Denis. He is all the way up to minus 165 in some places, and you can still get him here at minus 142 on Bet Openly. Just an example for you guys to see how this platform is good for us gamblers. It's going to save you money long term, and as you guys know, that's half the battle. If you can just win that juice battle over and over and over, that's the game. So make sure you sign up at Bet Openly. I will have my link in the chat below and in the description of the show as well. Let's go ahead and get back to these breakdowns. The next fight up is Yanis Ghemmouri taking on Caolan Loughran. Loughran. I'm going to go with Loughran. These guys are very exciting. And once again, we got to talk about Cage Warriors, Keith. It's an interesting spot. This guy Loughran is he is the talk of the town this week. 8-0, undefeated, Irish stud. He kind of reminds me of what we expected Trevor Peek to be. He's durable. He's mean. He's a thick, meaty boy, and he's a
Yeah.
brawler. He walks his way forward. He's got a nasty uppercut on him, heavy hands, and he just goes chin for chin. This guy just wants to go, I'm going to hit you harder than you're going to hit me. So I'm still going to be here when the dust settles. And I love it. I'm here for it. But he's a cleaner striker than Trevor Peek is. There's no tomahawks here with this guy coming in here on Saturday. He's also got a big right body kick. He always keeps that right hand plastered to his chin until he has an opportunity to throw it. That's his moneymaker. That big bomb of a right hand. Nasty uppercut. Good timing on his hooks. I like this kid. He's my kind of fighter. That's some action right there. Yanis, though, is no pushover. 12-1, solid record coming from Brave FC, 28 years old. He stays long, man. This guy, he would be really annoying to fight, Keith, because he doesn't even throw a jab. He almost just has like that pawing lead hand where he'll just constantly be measuring the distance. And you got to find your way around it. It's not a punch. It's not a shot. It's not going to come at you, but he's like blocking your vision and like keeping you at bay like you're his little brother or something with that hand just sticking out there all the damn time. And then he's got these whipping leg kicks. They are so fast. Those things do not feel good. It's not like the thudding baseball bat type of leg kicks. Like you can feel this one's going to leave like whiplash marks on your, his foot cracking around the back of your thigh and stuff like that. Very intelligent with his cage fighting, strong underhooks, good head position. He knows what he's doing up against the fence, and he's very elusive. He moves backwards really well, good side to side movement really well. The thing I don't like about Yanis, he gets a little cocky, gets a little overconfident. Plays with his hands low. He starts poking the bear, starts talking to his opponents in there.
Does.
And we've actually seen him pay for that once, Keith. He did get clipped one time doing that shit, and it was bad. Now, he went right back to it his next fight, so, like, maybe that's just his thing. Maybe he's a Holland. He can't really control it. He's just got to talk his shit in there. But I think somebody's going to make him pay for it because he's not as fast as he thinks he is, and he does get hit. So it's a sketchy game that he's playing out there, but he is explosive. He does have strong takedowns. He drags people to the mat with that body lock, but he's got thundering ground and pound, Keith. Like, this is one of those guys that wants to punch the floor below the octagon when he's trying to pound somebody on the mat. Very, very dangerous. You can't really get trapped underneath this guy. I'm sorry, that note was intended to be for Loughran, by the way. That's the way that guy ground and pounds people. When it comes to Yanis, though, he fights more like a coiled snake, is the way that I want to kind of describe it, man. He keeps his distance, and then when he's ready to go, he goes. I kind of like the undefeated kid here, and I know we're fading the Cage Warriors hype right now. That's kind of the move at this moment because they seem to be on a bit of a skid. But like I talked about, man, I think that playing of Yanis, I think that refusing to keep his guard up, I just don't think he's going to fight perfect for 15 straight minutes against this guy. Now, again, we have him a $3 favorite, minus 300 on Caolan Loughran. Yanis at plus 240, I think, money line is interesting. Like he's going to fight well and maybe even look like he's winning right up until the fight that he doesn't. I might play the KO prop on the other side.
This is one of the best fights on the card. I mean, this is a really, really good fight. I like two intriguing prospects. Loughran is definitely the guy that's getting a lot of the hype. That comes with coming from Ireland, coming from Cage Warriors, being the Cage Warriors champions. It's just, we've seen that. We've seen Connor, we've seen Ian Gary, we've seen guys with that pedigree, be stars in the UFC. So I get why he's getting so much attention. You mentioned the guy's short, stocky guy. He looks like his back is huge. He looks like a mover bringing a couch up up to a second floor stairs. Like he's very physically strong. That said, he's not a great athlete. He's kind of a minus athlete. He's a little unorthodox on the feet, kind of stiff, but he gets in the pocket. A lot of jabs to get there, and then when he gets inside, he's throwing hard, short, tight hooks. Hits extremely hard, but defensively, a lot of holes. Very hittable, lacks head movement, as you mentioned. One of these guys, he's willing to eat one to land one to see who's standing at the end. Kind of, the Rock'em Sock'em robot type style. He does throw a lot of kicks, though. Despite power, he kind of pulls his punches a little bit though. Like he leans back a little when he throws it, losing technique. If he can, the guys pull the head back to avoid shots and not realize they actually just step in and land the shots. That's your best chance of avoiding shots. He can wrestle a little bit. I think his wrestling is very overrated. I've seen people say that he's a strong wrestler. I mean, he's an Irish wrestler, so take that what it's worth. But he's based on his short, like wide base. He's got some pretty solid takedown defense. He has 2 submission wins. Yanis is definitely a Muay Thai style striker. He's a counter striker, bit of a stationary target where he's standing right in front, like that traditional Muay Thai, like I land, you land kind of thing. He will fight out of both stances. I love his step back counters. Like his step back check left hook from the orthodox stances is a really beautiful punch. He throws a lot of single strikes. Again, probably because that traditional Muay Thai style. That's what they like to do. But I mean, you talked about his hand fighting. It's also his kicking game. I mean, a lot of kicks. Very quick high kick, great calf kicks. He loves those John Jones oblique kicks. Defensively, he pulls his head straight back, which I don't like. He can wrestle, though. You mentioned he was shooting for a takedown. He cuts the corner really well. He's got 4 submission wins. I think the line should be much closer than it is. Like, again, I'm not a betting guy. That's not my thing. But if I was, I'd be playing the upset pick, and I'm not betting it, but I'm picking the upset. I'm picking Ghemmouri. I think he's going to kick Loughran's legs out when Loughran gets in the pocket to throw his big shots. I think he's going to struggle to get by the kicks to get there, and then when he does, I think Ghemmouri's going to turn into a wrestling match. I think Ghemmouri's going to win in a pretty big upset decision in his UFC debut. Give me him by decision.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. I mean, Yanis, like I said, I'm right there with you. I think the line is way wide. I do think Loughran catches him at some point just because we've seen Yanis kind of fall victim to that and the way this kid keeps coming forward. I'm not sure anything will deter him. Like, I got to see him actually be hurt like so badly that he can't keep stepping forward before I believe that he's, the leg kicks are going to have that bad of an effect on him. Maybe they will. But I honestly think that if you went just like a 1-unit bet on both underdogs in this fight and the one we talked about last time, I think one of these 300 favorites is going down, Keith. I'm not sure who, but I feel like it's going to go 1-1 here. It's going to be a good fight night, man. Can't wait for this one. All right. The next fight up is Volkan, no time, Oezdemir, and he's taking on Bogdan Guskov, who is the reincarnation of Anthony Smith. This guy really looks like a young version of our guy Smith, who, by the way, helped save the night. We got in for a live bet at plus 300 on Anthony Smith this past week. That was
good for
fun.
You, man. You must have been sweating it, though, that decision. You must have been sweating it.
Absolutely. But I mean, the big thing is if you got 1 round to go, it's 1-1 and you're getting 3-1 on a guy, Keith, I'll flip that coin every day. Every day I will flip that coin. I promise you, if you're going to a split decision with 3-1 odds, you're coming out profitable no matter what. So
I love that saying, flip that coin.
That's
I'm going to use that
one.
I'm going to use that. I'll flip that coin.
That's all it was. I was ready to flip that coin because it was a 50-50 shot. And I just, honestly, if Ryan Spann gets outside of round 1, he's dead to me. Like, I just don't think he knows how to win a fight outside of round 1. Yeah. He fought better this fight. He had his man hurt. He extended himself. He didn't gas out. He took a bunch of shots from Anthony Smith that, quite frankly, I was impressed that he was able to withstand because he's been kind of chinny recently. Like, that doesn't get better. So I kind of felt like he was going to go down. So even with him being massively improved, he still can't win a 15-minute decision. Like, I'm just never going to bet Anthony Smith outside of round 1, man. He either finishes early or he doesn't. But anyway, that was last week. So Volkan Oezdemir, Bogdan Guskov. You guys know me and Volkan, we've been up and down. He's 18-7. I've bet on him sometimes, cashed a couple tickets. I've bet against him a couple times. Hit and miss on those every once in a while, but he does seem like a guy who's just floating right around that gatekeeper point. I mean, they rushed him up to being a title challenger because this division was so weak for a while there. It got rough that he got that high up, but he's 1-3 in his last 4. He had Nikita Krylov hurt early in round 1. Nikita woke up, hurt him back, and then ground him out for a decision win. If you look back at the Krylov and Craig fights, Keith, it's really like the two different sides of a coin, because in the Craig fight, he did everything perfectly. He didn't make a mistake. And if he had made one mistake, he was going to lose that fight because Craig was tagging him on the feet. Craig can obviously submit anybody on the ground. Like, I really applauded him for that performance because he had it locked down. Like, he did nothing out of place and he won a decision for it. The Krylov fight was the exact opposite. He came storming out the gates, tried to bum rush this guy, hurt him immediately, and then just really kind of left himself with nothing to fall back on. There was no parachute after that. So he's kind of in no man's land to me here. His opponent, Bogdan Guskov, I like everything I see about this kid. Like, he's 30 years old. He's a little short on experience. He's fought some questionable competition, but wait, when do we not say that when someone's making their UFC debut these days? They're always crushing cans. But when this guy crushes cans, he is crushing those cans, Keith. I mean, we're talking 30-second KOs crushing those cans. Like, he is not wasting a second of his time with these guys that are not on his level. This kid hits hard. The one thing I really was able to recognize that I love about his game is the solid cardio that he has and the ability to like maintain the range. He is always just outside where you can touch him. The very first thing he does is figure out how far you've got to swing, and he never enters that gap unless he's landing something. Now, obviously, low level of competition. He's probably not going to be quite that successful with it at the UFC level. But at this bright young age, I think there's a lot of hope for this kid going forward. I think he's definitely got some upside. And I took him here, Keith. I'm holding my nose. I'm taking the shot. We have seen a steep decline from Volkan Oezdemir in the last couple of years. He's been hurt in his last couple of fights, and he just kind of falls apart. Similar to Span when he doesn't get that early finish. Like, the 15-minute effort really just isn't there the way it used to be if you're not counting the Craig fight. And Craig was even having some success in the striking in that fight, which is a gigantic red flag to me. Paul Craig can't strike unless he has you mounted. That's the only time you can trust the hands of Paul Craig, because he's awful on his feet. And he was having success in spurts against Volkan Oezdemir. Plus 155 on this kid, Bogdan, sign me up. I know he's getting trial by fire here in this spot, Keith. I really do. But I just don't think Volkan Oezdemir is going to be able to take the punishment if they go blow for blow, which generally is how Volkan fights. I think this kid's going to win that blow for blow fight. And then when Volkan is coming forward, I think he's going to have a hard time tracking this kid down. The side-to-side movement, the elusiveness, the head movement, I think he's just going to be able to tag Volkan when Volkan can't touch him. I think Guskov is going to knock him out, quite frankly. What do you make of this one?
Yeah, man, this is a tough one because, yeah, I mean, Volkan Oezdemir, we got to learn a lot of questions right away, because Volkan Oezdemir, if he can't beat this guy, then he's no longer an upper echelon light heavyweight, and something that, you know, I've been skeptical for a while now. And Guskov is going to answer. If he can beat Volkan Oezdemir, he's legit. And if he can't, you know, you got to ask the question, you know, was he just, you know, look good because who he faced? He's facing, I mean, he faced some tomato cans. So, Oezdemir, he's, for a guy who's been, you know, one of the top guys in the division, he's always been a minus athlete, you know, and he's getting slower as it goes too. He's always been flat-footed. Yeah, he marches forward, kind of plodding. But when he's made up for it, he's had high volume, though that has been declining. He is a short, tight inside boxer that slides in the mid-range and lands shots, his left hook being his best shot. He's had very good power, but it's been overrated. I mean, he hasn't knocked anybody out in 4 years, and people still talk about like he's, you know, Sergey Pavlovich throwing bombs out there. Is not close. Now, if he can get in close quarters striking, I like that. Like, I like his like chest to chest, dirty boxing, stuff like that. He can wrestle offensively. He's got takedowns against Dominic Reyes, Anthony Smith, Paul Craig, even Nikita Krylov. He got a takedown in a fight that he wasn't in for much. But he's been taken down so much. I mean, Krylov was taken down with ease. He struggled to get back up. In the grappling, his best position, he's a topside grappler. You know, he's not very good on the bottom. He isn't a submission threat. I will give him credit. Like, I agree with a lot of what you said about the Paul Craig fight. Like, he fought very intelligently. He showed, you know, the times he did hit the ground, he didn't get submitted by Paul Craig. But my biggest concern right now is his cardio. I mean, his cardio seems shot against Krylov very early, and that's not a good sign, especially for someone his age. Now,
Absolutely.
Guskov, yeah, I mean, what I've seen in this guy, striker, he drops his hands. Maybe he kind of throws some hip, but like you said, he understands range well. He throws straight shots, very good power. I love that he throws same side attacks because they're so unorthodox. So what I mean by that is he'll throw like a straight right, and then he'll double it up again, which like two of the same side power shots is very rare. And he was landing it. Serious power. He's got 12 knockouts. Defensively, he keeps his chin a little high in the air, but he moves his head well. I haven't seen too much of his offensive wrestling. The one time I did see him, he ended it very quickly with vicious ground and pound. And when I've seen him trying to get taken down, he showed so far some pretty good takedown defense. But he hasn't faced a high level wrestler to really kind of test it. Oezdemir is definitely a very hard test in someone's UFC debut, just based on his just being a veteran, being in the UFC, fighting at the highest level, fought for the title and everything. That said, he's declining quick, and I think he might be shot. So I wish there was a little bit more tape study on Guskov because he's faced so many cans and he starts him so quick, so it's really hard to grasp how good he is. If he had to get pushed deeper into fights and see more. But I'm going to say he makes his spectacular UFC debut. I'm betting on Oezdemir being done, and I say Guskov catches him and starches him. I see this in the very first round. Give me Guskov first round. First round.
Let's do it, Keith. Big upset to start the show. Let's go.
Bet the house on it. Bet everything you have.
If you bet the whole house, you come home with 2.5 houses. That's how that works.
God hates cowards. Bet the house.
No, we kid. Bankroll management, folks. Don't bet too much. But seriously, we like the dog here. I'm glad you're with me on that one, Keith. The one thing that I kind of forgot to mention is that not only is Oezdemir kind of declining, you mentioned the cardio falling off, the chin seems to be going. The other thing is he gets desperate. Like, I think he still believes he's no time. The guys he knocked out, I've talked about this more than once, Keith, but I'm going to bring it up every single time. He knocked out the chinniest guys on the roster. Like, he got Ilir Latifi out of there, which now that one is a little surprising. But the two before that got him the no time nickname was Jimmy Manoa and Misha Serkinov. Two guys that are known for being chinny and quitting. Like, these are not impressive finishes.
Especially Serkinov.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And those are the guys he got the nickname from. Every single other fighter he's fought since then that's caliber of any sort, he's either gone to decision with or he's lost. Krylov, Craig, Ankalaev, Jiri, Rakic, Reyes.
Well, he won the Rakic. He won the Rakic. He won Rakic. He should have lost it, but he won.
Well, I'm saying he either went to decision or lost.
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah,
so
sorry.
He's just not knocking out good fighters. That's all it comes down to.
No.
He's never knocking out good fighters. And that's where you can have whatever questions you want about Bogdan, but I think he's good enough. You know what I mean? Yeah. The other thing I want to make mention of is Latifi. I'm sorry, not Latifi. Oezdemir has 2 knockout losses on his record. He also has 2 submission losses on his record. And what people may not know about this kid, Bogdan Guskov, he just got awarded his BJJ black belt, Keith. Folks, the club and sub is live. They're hanging a 16-1 right now on this man to win by sub. And your boy might have to take just a little sprinkle on it because his money line is plus 155. The knockout is 2-1. You're not getting anything there. And that's why I played the money line. I'm not waiting for the knockout prop because there's just not enough meat on the bone. He probably wins. It's probably going to be a knockout. But the sub at 16-1, imagine if he snatches a neck while he's on his way down. Like that's that's all I'm saying.
16-1, why not?
16-1. Let's see it, kid. Like he's obviously working on that ground game in the rear view mirror while he's racking up all these round 1 KOs. Let's see what happens if he just maybe he clips Volkan and Volkan shoots one of those poorly educated takedowns because he's hurt but he's not all the way out yet. That ninja choke, man, the high elbow guillotine, those have been kind of a thing lately. I'm going to touch that 16-1, Keith. I'll have just a little bit of that for sure. All right, everybody. We're getting down to the nitty gritty here, the end of the show. Thank you all so much for being with us this evening. We had 200 live viewers already here on this show, Keith. So thank you all very much for being with us. Can't believe 200 of you degenerates are rocking with me, even though you can't talk to me. I'm so sorry, guys. We'll get that fixed for next time. The next fight up, though, Benoit Saint-Denis, the God of War, takes on Thiago Moises. And I mentioned this at the break when we were talking about bet openly and finding these spots where, you know what, if you missed the line, if it already got away from you, you can lower that juice down 1% on bet openly and find the number you were looking for. This is the one. This is the one. Folks, I already jumped in on Benoit Saint-Denis. I got him at minus 115, I believe. I was waiting, Keith. I was waiting for the bookies to drop this number on me because I wanted it immediately. This guy is so much better than people have ever given him credit for. You know, he makes his UFC debut and he gets beaten pillar to post by Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. Just a criminal fight. Never should have been allowed to go on as long as it did. But what it showed us is the durability. This guy's made out of steel, Keith. Like, I'm actually kind of grateful because if we had never seen him take that beating, it would always be a question. Is it going to come back to haunt him? Is he chinny? Maybe he's just winning these fights too quickly. We got to wonder. No. I am like absolutely reinforced that this guy cannot be broken after watching that fight. His grit, his toughness, his physical durability, all those boxes are checked in one fight. Then they get him back on track with a fight against Nicholas Stolze. Finishes the guy in the second round. They throw him Gabriel Miranda. Everyone thinks, he's bum crushing, right? He's out here taking low-level... No. They're rebuilding a real prospect. They put him in there against Ismail Bonfim. And I told everybody that week, Keith, I said, look, I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed, Keith, because my guy Benoit Saint-Denis was plus 200, and I did not bet him that night. But I told everyone, don't parlay Bonfim. This is the spot where everyone's riding high on Bonfim.
Yeah.
And he gets a tough out, and it's way closer than the line should suggest. Now, I like the Bonfim bros. That's what kind of kept me off betting it in that spot because I was like, the Bonfims are really good. Like, just because the line is off doesn't mean he's not going to win. He could still win that fight. So I was rooting for Benoit. Never expected him to come out and just crush this guy in the first round. That was more impressive than even somebody who's hyped on the kid was expecting. So he blew me out of the water. I've basically bet him in every single fight in the organization except that last one, and I refused to bet against him that night. When they drop this Thiago Moises spot, I am in. I am all in. Thiago Moises is good. He's solid. Don't get me wrong. 28 years old, BJJ black belt, trains out of American Top Team. He's got good boxing. He's got good cardio. He's got great wrestling. He's another guy that's really tough. He's another guy that's really hard to get out of there, hard to finish. But the measurables for Benoit Saint-Denis, he's 2 inches taller. He's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage. I think this comes down to the size, Keith. Like any disparity in skill, which, by the way, I don't think there are many, but any disparity he might have, I think will be made up for with just that physical, raw presence from this guy. You can't hurt him. And Thiago Moises is not really a knockout puncher with that boxing. So I don't think he can win there. If they're trading on the feet, we've seen what this guy can do with his hands and his legs. Big power shots. He hurts people. He backs people up constantly. I think he'll win big moments when they're trading on the feet. Grappling, Thiago Moises might be the better jiu-jitsu player. I'll give him that. But when you get the more physical wrestler in Benoit Saint-Denis, I think Moises is going to end up on his back. I think he's going to end up playing guard. I think he'll be the one pinned up against the fence. So unless he finds a way to sneak out and get this guy's ankle, unless he finds a way to the back in a scramble, I don't think he's going to be the better grappler here in this fight either. I think this line was way short. They are giving respect to Thiago Moises, which he has earned over the course of his career. But the other thing is we saw not too long ago what happens when you just bum rush this guy. When Yoel Alvarez in round 1 came out against Thiago Moises, he said, you do not belong in this cage with me. Walked him down, kicked him everywhere he could get him, busted him up in the clinch, backed him up. Moises had no answer for a bigger, more physical man that was able to just kind of steamroll him. And I think that's what Benoit Saint-Denis is going to do too.
So this is my favorite fight. Well, I don't want to say my favorite fight of the card, but it's definitely one of the fights that I'm most intrigued by. On our show I do with Ben, he always asks me for like one fight that's not getting talked about enough, and this is the one I mentioned. I like both guys. I think they're both better guys in the division. Moises, on the feet, he's a low output striker, a little flat footed, but he's a boxer with some pretty quick hands, tight inside striking. I'd say some plus power. He throws a lot of kicks. That's because he doesn't care if you catch a kick and try to take him down, especially rips him to the body. But he mixes his striking in with his takedown attempts, and he's a decent wrestler, but he struggles to get to that second level of his entries, like driving. He can get into the hips, but driving through the hips. One, he's just not that good of an athlete, and you can tell he's a guy who's done jiu-jitsu his whole life and does that like, hey, we're having jiu-jitsu class, let's work on our takedowns, and it's like, grab my partner's leg, he falls down. Like, they're not in the wrestling room really driving those takedowns like they should. Oftentimes he'll shoot and he'll just try to close the distance. He'll even pull guard if he has to. I'd say he's a very, very, very good BJJ practitioner. I mean, he's got, I think, 9 subs or 8 or 9 subs on his record. Can kind of get him in all transitions. He will drop down an ankle. Like he caught Michael Johnson with an ankle. He almost caught Bobby Good with that. But the problem is you're taking a chance when you do something like that, putting yourself in striking range. The thing that jumps out to me besides the size advantage for Denis is just the athleticism. He's a really good athlete.
Yes.
He's looked very good in his last 3 fights. Southpaw, fast hands, good power, mean kicks. I like that he can go to the body, then he'll throw like a high kick. He does keep his chin a little too high for my liking and lacks head movement. But you mentioned it. I mean, the Zaleski Dos Santos fight, he showed that he's like the toughest SOB alive. Like, yeah, he got smashed, but he kept coming and was fighting through it. Very physically strong when you look at him. He's got a little bit of a judo background. I like his body lock game. I like his hip control, good at following hips, good pack takes. A lot of times people think of him as a striker, but I mean, he's got 7 submissions on his record. But the one thing I don't like about him is he'll jump for a sub instead of defending a takedown, which would be bad against someone like Moises. This is a really, really good matchup. I mean, you can see that by the betting lines. Moises, I still, even though I just talked about how underrated Denis is on the ground, I definitely still think that Moises has the better jiu-jitsu, like you said. If it goes to the ground and somebody gets a submission, I still would get that would be Moises. But I'm guessing that he can't get Saint-Denis down. I think Denis is just going to be so much better than him. I also don't trust Moises' durability. Like, I go back to like the Joel Alvarez KO loss. Yep. And Denis, I don't know if he hits as hard as Alvarez. I mean, Alvarez is such a big dude. It's so different. But like, it wouldn't be surprised me if he does hit that hard. So I think we get a back and forth affair. I think they slug it out, but I think Denis catches him. I'm going to say Denis catches him in the second round. Give me Denis by second round TKO.
Let's go. I like it.
I don't think we disagreed much. Are we disagreed yet on this card?
You know what? On this card, I think we've only disagreed maybe once.
Yeah.
It's a pretty chalky card, though.
Yeah, that's fair. Because we've disagreed before. I think the first time I went on your show, like, I disagreed with you with bat. I'm like, yeah, that's a good way to make a friend.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's definitely one of those things that whenever we're counting these cards, man, and especially when it's these big chalky type of lines, the fact that we're picking the same 2 underdogs that might pull the upset, I'm liking that. I'm liking that a lot. That's what warms my heart a little bit, makes me feel better.
Gotta love a guy by the name Boston Nick. I wonder if
that's my boy.
I wonder if he was at the fights. I wasn't if he was at the fights last weekend. I was there. You should have said hi to me.
That's what's up. That's absolutely what's up. Now, my guy Nick and I go way back. We've been breaking down fights together for a long time.
Nice.
All right. Here we go, folks. I can't wait to hear what you got to say on this one, Keith. We've got Manon Fiorot taking on Rose Namajunas coming up next. And folks, there's not a whole lot for me to say. There's not a whole lot for me to say when it comes to like the technical analysis of this fight, right? Like, we've all seen Manon Fiorot fight. We've all seen the destruction that she's caused in this cage. She took the game by storm. Everyone is ready to anoint her the next big thing. She's 33 years old, so it's kind of a now or never thing, Keith. She's really got to make it to her title shot as quickly as possible because that prime window is going to be closing sooner than later. But she is a tough chick, man. She hits hard. She stays long. Nice, long, intelligent jab. Good high pace. She's got good takedown defense, good scramble ability, stays on the feet when she wants to. Everybody loves Menage. She's really good everywhere. Rose is the big wild card here, right? You know, former 115er, one of the best 115ers of all time. And now she's moving up to 125 after the worst split decision loss we have ever seen. Worst UFC fight of all time. Like, it finally dethroned Francis Ngannou taking on Derek Lewis, did Rose Namajunas and Carlos Esparza. I was there live that night, Keith. I watched that fight. You couldn't hear a damn thing. The crowd booed for 25 straight minutes. They shook the arena with consistent booing, and it was deafening. Like, when you watch back the video, you can't really hear it. Like, if you're running some of the tape on this fight, you can hear a couple smatterings of boos. But up in the rafters where I was, it was consistent the whole night. Crazy. But let's not forget that at the end of the day, Rose is 2-0 over Weili Zhang. She head kicked this girl to hell. She sent her to the shadow realm. And then when she came back for the immediate rematch because the UFC wanted Zhang to have gold wrapped around her waist, she won a decision. She beat her the other way. Like, she proved she's the better fighter. This girl is tenacious. She is tough. She, even though we all know the Jessica Andrade slam knockout, she's very durable. One of the, I think, most underrated parts of her game at this point is her grappling and her jiu-jitsu. People forget how slick Rose was on the ground. Her transitions, her scrambles. She is so good. Weili Zhang, who just put on an absolute peak performance over Amanda Lemos in her last fight, she went, let me see my notes here, 5 of 11 on takedowns. So she got 5 takedowns that night. 3 minutes of control time. Over the course of a 25-minute fight, Keith, Zhang, who has turned into a monster wrestler, had just 3 minutes of control time on Rose. She's not someone you're capable of holding down. She's only 31 years old. Now, Rose is a bit of a head case, and that's really my problem. Is because I don't know what her mental state is. When she is on, she's a serial killer. She's deadly. She'll go out there and beat anybody in the world. She's got power. She can submit people. She's very opportunistic with those submissions. She can snap off anybody at any point in time. I just don't know what version of Rose we're getting, and I don't understand the move to 125 because she's got back-to-back wins over the girl with the belt at 115. Why wouldn't you go, hey, you want a third? I'll take my strap back. Thank you very much. Like, I don't get what's happening here. So if she's suddenly shot, why she would be, we don't know. She didn't take any damage against Carlos Esparza, quite obviously. Maybe she just wants a new challenge. I don't get it. I can't wait for Fighters Day to come around. I need to hear some of these interviewers ask her some questions because I got to know what's going on up here. But at the end of the day, resume for resume, it's Rose, man. It's Rose all day. You cannot compare what these two women have done in the cage. And the only thing that I can come up with to say, hey, you should maybe bet Manon Fiorot is she's naturally bigger. That's the one thing. Rose, I think, has more output. Rose is probably still the better striker. Rose is absolutely the better grappler. The one thing I can give Manon is she's bigger and maybe physically stronger.
A lot bigger.
And that's the key here. Why is this happening? It shouldn't be taking place at 125 for Rose. I can't tell anybody to lay minus 185 on Manon Fiorot, Keith. I really can't. Like that, because if that's all this comes down to, you've got a championship caliber, time and time over again, proven championship belt-worthy fighter taking on a girl we all think could challenge for a title. I'm going to have to lean on that back class. I'm going to have to lean on this girl who we know is capable of legendary performances against anybody in the world. I want to hear where her head is at. I don't have a bet on this fight, but it would be dog or pass if I was going to play it.
Wow. Let me ask you this, because obviously, you understand betting lines better than I do. What do you think the betting line would be? You go back to her last fight, and I said this on my show when I was talking to Ben. Carlos Esparza that fight was, you mentioned, an all-time terrible. But say she gets the split decision win, and she's the champion right now. For some reason, I don't know, she's got to fight for the title against against Alexa Grasso, but something happens, and somehow Manon Farrell is facing her. What would you think about it? So she came into this fight as a champion. So one judge, one person in the arena, picks her over Carlos Esparza. What do you think about? I mean, I think she's the favorite, no? If she's the champion.
Yeah,
it's just funny how like one person
minus 130, like they make her the slight favorite coming into this fight because she's got the belt wrapped around her waist. And then it's funny you say that, Keith, because realistically, wouldn't she jump the line for an immediate title shot?
Yeah,
like they'd be doing the champ thing for her.
Yeah.
They wouldn't even make this fight if she gets one judge on her side in that decision. This whole thing makes no sense. This is massive recency bias, and everybody hates the fight. Everybody hates that fight with Carla. They're so glad that Rose. Dog's barking. They're so glad that Rose lost that fight. And I said the same thing, Keith. I said the same thing. I'm sitting there and I'm going, you know what? Carla didn't do shit. But I hope Rose loses. Because of the way she fought that fight, I hope she loses. And that's what everybody's thinking.
You know why I think a lot of people were saying the same thing? Carlos Esparza, it wasn't her fault. And I'll tell you why. She wants to get inside. She needed to wrestle. She wanted to get inside. She wanted to pocket box. Rose was the one circling the cage. She couldn't get inside. So she just started saying, like, I could see Carlos going, like, I'm not winning this fight, but I'm not losing it. Like, maybe I'll get lucky on the judges. While Rose thought she was winning. You know what I mean? Like
absolutely.
It was that was Rose's strategy. Yeah, like that. Yeah, well, he was telling her too. Yeah, that was Rose's strategy. That wasn't Carlos Esparza's strategy. At least I'm assuming it wasn't. So, so as far as this fight, because this fight is a really good fight. You know what? I think I just kept thinking of when I was doing film study on these two. I think they're both great fighters. Is like, it's a shame that this isn't a main event, and I understand why it isn't a main event. Probably the UFC. But that's exactly what comes down to. UFC's not going to trust her, and you got to add, 2 more, 10 more minutes to the fight. God forbid you have another stinker. But on merit, and it could be one of these ones where I feel like after 15 minutes we'd be like, oh, come on, we got ripped off. I don't think it's going to be her versus Joanna Jędrzejczyk. Her versus Joanna, like their second fight where it's like a classic fight. Like, I don't think it's going to be like that. But I think it's going to be one of those ones where if he goes to decision, we might be like, damn, what would have happened if we had 2 more rounds? I'll say this. Rose Namajunas is always been very fast at 115. I'm glad you talked about it, because she's always, besides her brain, she's always been seen someone like to not be motivated. Like, she's one person. Like, she's such a different character. I think that's why she's so popular, because I think about, like, she came through tough, and like Juliana Pena came through tough, and think about, like, they both were champions at the same time, and you couldn't see like 2 more polar opposites. Like, Juliana Pena is that like meatheadish, try to talk junk, and Rose Namajunas is like singing psalms and stuff when people are talking trash to her, and so. But because that you never know what's in her head. So, like, is she motivated? Would she rather be outside, like, picking turnips and picking mushrooms and stuff? Like, who knows? But that we won't know. We'll never know. Even the interviews, the interviews could be so tough. But skill-wise, she's as skilled as any female fighter I've ever seen. I mean, Absolutely. She's super fast. At 125, she'd just be as fast. She moves really well. I mean, we saw that. She's got great footwork. I mean, sometimes, as you know better than anybody. Sometimes she focuses on her footwork a little too much in the case when she fought Carlos Esparza. But she has one of these rare abilities. If you charge her, she can land strikes while backing up. Very few fighters can do that. Not many tells that are striking. Everything's doesn't really telegraph anything. Good range striker, fantastic jab. One of the best jabs in MMA. Regardless of gender, great kicking game. I mean, legendary high kick against Weili Zhang. Like, the high kick that she won the title against Weili Zhang is one of the best, like, picture perfect high kick. She can crack. Like, she's always had underrated power. I wonder if that translates when she moves up to 125. We've seen a lot of people. Like, there's some people that are just they were too small. That happens. But we've also seen other people, they move up, and you're like, wow, it's the best thing they ever did. because they're not zapping the body. She never seemed like one that was really draining her body, but
she's built so wiry. Like that's kind of my thing is what does she look like up at the 125-pound weight class? Because I'm just not sure how she fills out. Has she been lifting? Is she a power lifter this whole time and she's going to come out looking like John Jones did?
Who knows? Who knows? I'll say this, like her moving up. So Ben asked me, like, am I excited about her moving up? And I kind of gave two answers. I kind of gave both sides of the fence. And I said, well, if I was as a fan or, I'm excited about it because it gives me all new matchups. For the last couple of years, it's been the same, same fighters in the top of 115. Joanna, Rose, Jessica Andrade, Weili Zhang. Flipping, Amanda Lemos here and there, but like for most part, those four fighters. Now that Rose is in a new division, it gives me so many new exciting matchups.
Absolutely.
This fight, if she reaches to a title, Grasso, Shevchenko, Blanchfield, Talia Santos, I did the same thing yesterday when I talked about this. The Scottish, the Scotland, the Scottish. No, the other one, the good one. Really brash woman. She's very brash. Regardless, there's a whole bunch of people. Macy Barber is another one.
Barber's another one. Yeah.
All these exciting matchups that we now get. But now, if I'm family member, if I'm coach, if I'm Pat Berry, I'm looking at him like, Rose, you have 2 wins over the champion. Like you're 1 win. Like you could probably get a title shot right away.
Yeah. Or if go back down, take your belt back. Win.
So like competitively for her, it's better at 115. But for us as fans, like I don't need to see another fight against Weili. Like I'm excited to see her fight other people. So back to some of her skills. She's very intelligent in the game. I always go back to the same fight, and it's been a while now, but I always think about she's so good at sneaking takedowns on her opponents when the opponent's over pressure. And a perfect example is I'm in Long Island, New York. She's defending her title, the second fight against JJ. I got it 2 rounds each. It's about a minute left in the fight. I got 4 minutes in, and I got this 5th round as even as possible. I'm going, whoever wins this 5th round wins the title, in my opinion. And she drops that. She has not looked for a takedown the entire fight, but she times a perfect takedown of the 5th and gets a takedown. And I'm like, that was brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And then she wins the fight. And you mentioned like how good is she on the ground? She's super flexible, super slick, transitions so well. Wins. She's good at winning scrambles, advances position on the ground. Really like now Madame Farreau. One event she has just being in France, being on that time zone.
Yep.
The crowd obviously is going to be rocking. She'll probably get the biggest. I mean, I think Gane will get the biggest chair, but she's going to have a huge pop from the crowd. Southpaw, who's a very technically sound striker, good footwork. She does these light little side steppings to avoid strikes, but also cuts angles well when she attacks. So she'll like throw 1-2 punches and sidestep and kind of give her a better angle to land like the big power shot. Fast hands, which is. She's very intelligent. She strikes like like the top boxers do, where they throw arm punches and they conserve the energy until there's an open, and that's when they really open up with a shot. Max Holloway does that really well. Izzy Adesanya does that. But when she steps in, she can crack. She's got some good power. She loves to lead with her front hook. Like she loves to like she doesn't do like a step back check. It's like a power leap, like a power hook, trying to catch people. The one thing that bothers me, we talked, and not to the extent of the Morgan guy we talked earlier, but she can coast a little with her volume, and that bothers me. Perfect example is a fight I always bring up is the Jennifer Maia fight. She fought down to her competition against Jennifer Maia, and because of her, she didn't match Maia's output. It was a much closer fight than it should have been, and that concerns me. I wonder sometimes these people with a decorated, boxing, kickboxing, boxing just scored so differently than MMA. They don't get fooled as much. It's really about what you land and not what you throw.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this Jorge Masvidal, before he became that big star with the knockout over Askren and stuff. He used to coast a lot and lose close fights. Bobby Green was a guy that got accused of it.
Yep.
We talked about Hakeem Dawodu. I'm worried about that, but in her defense, her output was much better against Katlyn Chookagian in her next fight. So I like that. Good kicking game, fantastic teep kick, something that she could probably do well against Rose Namajunas, being that's just physically stronger. She can wrestle a little bit. Good entries. We just talked about Rose Namajunas getting a late takedown. She got a late takedown at Katlyn Chookagian, who is very underrated, very tough, tricky fight, and strong top control. This is an extremely hard fight to pick. I really want to pick Rose. I'm with you. I don't trust her mind. I don't trust her motivation. I wonder what the size difference is. There's so many question marks, which makes me even like, I'm not one of these people when I pick a fight and I feel confident that I'm excited. I want to see the fight that I'm not confident, the one that I have so many questions in my mind. It's like a movie. Like when you go to the movies and you watch one of these superhero movies and you like, I could write every superhero movie that's ever existed. Like they're gonna fight the bad guy
at the end.
Yeah, like they're gonna fight the bad guy halfway through the movie. The bad guy's gonna kick their ass. It's gonna be the end of the world. There's no way they're gonna be able to top this guy. But then at the very end, they're gonna find a way they're gonna find the bad guy's weakness and win. I like this. This is like one of those tricky. Like, I don't know where this movie's gonna go. I don't know what's gonna happen at the end. And to me, that's so much more entertaining. So. Man, Manolo, not only is she, Rose gonna be smaller than her because she's moving up in weight, but a lot of females in that weight class who are natural 125-pound fighters are smaller than her because she's big. I think we have a back and forth affair. I love Rose's skills. I'm gonna go with the intelligence. I'm gonna go with the big massive fight experience. I think Rose sticks and moves. She does something. Maybe she lands a takedown or two, wins some grappling. I'm going to go with Rose to win in an upset. Give me Rose by, I'll say split decision win for her.
Are we 3 for 3 picking underdogs here, Keith?
I think
Is that
so,
what just happened?
I think so, man.
That's what happened. All right. So we are in lockstep here tonight.
I said to myself when I went on the show, don't look like an idiot. Just follow all of Clint's bets.
That's definitely
follow
not
the man.
The plan.
Follow the man wherever he goes. Go the same.
Oh, coming off a pretty rough week, folks. For those of you paying attention, I am having the year of my life when it comes to betting and picking fights. I've been spot on, but I hit. I'm pretty proud to say, Keith, if I'm gonna have like a rough night for me at the office making my picks, I was 69% this week on my picks, which
not bad. That's not bad. That's pretty good.
A better number either. If I'm going to be wrong, I might as well be 69%, right?
So that's what people. So me and you watch fights way differently because obviously you're rooting for your picks. This is how I watch fights. People always ask me how I watch fights. Who I'm rooting for. I always say this. I make my predictions. I always start from the very bottom and I root for my pick. But as soon as I lose one fight, I don't care. Like I always want to go undefeated. But as soon as I lose one fight,
you want to sweep the whole card.
Yeah, I want to sweep the whole card. If I go 9-1, I don't care. Like I'm not gonna brag about that. Like if I go 10-0, oh cool. Yep. Now, it was as soon as I lose one fight, now I'm rooting for what's the most exciting thing because we do a live recap show right afterwards. For a cheap pump. If you guys want like the best recap show in the world, head over to Sherdog right after the event. Anyways, much different. We're not as nerdy. It's more fun making jokes and stuff. But what I do is I root for what's the most exciting thing to talk about during the recap show. And Rose winning in that division, how exciting. I mean, but really, either one of these would be super excited to talk about if they win. So I'm just so intrigued. I'm so excited for this fight.
Yeah, man. I'm pumped. I'm absolutely pumped. There's a lot of question marks. There's a lot of moving pieces. I'm with you, though. I think Rose is super live. And when was the last time we got her at this kind of a price tag? She's just not underdog caliber, and they're pricing her as though she's shot. We talked about Volkan Oezdemir not too long ago, and our whole stance on that is Buddy might be shot. Like we think it's time to take advantage of the fact that he has declined. Rose hasn't declined.
No.
She had one fight where she made a really bad choice, and her corner just kept rooting for her to make the same bad choice time and time again. That's not her fault. Well, I mean, it kind of is her fault, but it could have been very, very different if they had decided to snap out of that and do something a little differently. She's one of the most violent fighters we've ever seen. Like, I need to hear the interview, but I very well may likely be taking a stab on Rose Namajunas this weekend. Last fight, folks, main event time. Here we go. We've got Ciryl Gane taking on Sergey the polar bear, Spivak. And Ciryl Gane is the man truly flying the flag over there for France. They've been waiting for this man to make it to the big show. They got an interim belt wrapped around his waist, but all hell King Francis, baby. I know they're trying to erase him from the history books here at the UFC. There's no more, apparently, no more Cameroonian fighters ever in the octagon.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But he said, no, this is my belt. This is my house. He is the baddest man on the planet. Ciryl had to go on back to the drawing board. They used him as fodder there for John Jones to get the gold back next up. And we've seen the grappling weakness back-to-back times. Francis Ngannou won the belt because he surprised everybody and put his singlet on that night. John Jones, no issues, took him down, climbed him like a tree immediately, choked him out, easy peasy. And now everybody and their mom is just piling in here on Sergey Spivak. And it's, again, Keith, kind of like the last fight, there's not a lot of technical stuff to talk about. It's striker versus grappler. We know what Ciryl Gane does. Light on his feet, digs your gut with those toes, moves his way around the cage, really loves to work the body, but he's patient. He plays with his food. He has no problems going to a decision as long as he makes sure you never have one opportunity to hurt him in that fight. If the finish presents itself, he will gladly take it. But if the finish does not present itself, he's just going to keep poking you until the bell rings. Sergey Spivak on the other side, mauling wrestler. This guy is not a very good striker. He's not very good at range, but he's young. Maybe he's improving. 28 years old, definitely still has some upside, but when he gets on top of people, he's relentless. The mat returns. If he gets his hands on you, you're going for a ride, and you're more than likely going for a ride again as you're working your way back up on the cage. Problem is that striking deficiency. 2 knockout losses on his record. Walt Harris one-punched this man into the shadow realm. And then Tom Aspinall did the same thing in the first round. Keith, the thing is for me here, I really thought that I was going to take the stab with everybody else on the dog. In betting, you almost never want to be on a public dog. Like last week, Billy Goff was the public dog. He got it done. Sometimes they're right. But it seems like everybody's on Sergey Spivak this week. Everybody. And as this line continues to drop, I'm tempted to buy low on Ciryl Gane. Like the UFC absolutely puts people in their backyard to lose. We've seen it. It's happening on this card 2 or 3 times already. I don't think Cyryl's the kind of guy that they're putting on this card in his backyard to lose. Now, Spivak definitely has some upside. There's nothing wrong with this kid. But I don't think they're so hyped on him that they're trying to build him quickly when Tom Aspinall needed a get-right fight. They didn't throw him to the wolves. They didn't throw him to the upper echelon of the division. They gave him one more fight where he could kind of reestablish himself. That was against Sergey Spivak. They're doing the same thing here. They're saying, look, Ciryl, this fight is tailor-made for you. You just got to be able to keep away from the kid. You don't even need that great of takedown defense. If he can just shuck 1 or 2 takedowns and stay at range, his striking advantage is so big, Sergey will fold over. It's going to take 2 rounds. He will get out of round 1, and it's going to be in the second round, very similarly to the Derek Lewis fight where he gets him with a body shot, and Sergey just calls it quits, Keith. That's how I see this fight playing out. I think as long as he can keep Sergey off him in round 1, Ciryl Gane wins this fight. I don't think Sergey Spivak is anywhere near the level of grappler of John Jones, and quite frankly, if Ngannou had ever shot a takedown in the UFC prior to that fight, I think Ciryl Gane probably stuffs that takedown and is the champion at that point instead of Francis being the one who got his hand raised. He's not a bum. He's not awful. He's 33 years old. He's not too old to be making some adjustments. And I'll bet you training with Nasruddin Imavov for the last camp is going to have his takedown defense and range management ready for this spot. I think Ciryl Gane's going to win.
Yeah, let me just ask you this question. Kind of another hypothetical. Imagine if Ciryl Gane did not fight John Jones in his last fight. Say that fight fell through or something, and this was, say he got hurt or something, and he, somebody else went in. Curtis Blades fought John Jones instead, and Ciryl Gane was coming back to fight, or even this. Take like a year ago. If these 2 guys fought a year ago, imagine what the betting line would be for Ciryl Gane.
It'd be Gane minus 500.
Yeah, that's like 400, 500. Yeah, absolutely. It'd be a huge massive favorite. Nobody would be picking Spivak. So who's going to win this fight? It's intriguing. I definitely have my question marks. I'm it's going to sit. To me, this is a chance for Gane to show that he's still, one of the top heavyweights in the world, who not that long ago was the favorite over Francis Ngannou. I don't know if it was better favorite, but my point, he was very close to winning against Francis.
It was a pick 'em against Francis.
Pick him against Francis. I think it was a close, betting line against John Jones.
Short underdog to John Jones.
Or Sergey Spivak.
Plus 150. They made him a plus 150 to John Jones.
So still, that's probably the closest the line's been John Jones in forever. I mean, since, I don't know, Shogun. I don't know who has been that close. But then you go to, Spivak. This is his chance to show that, he's continued to improve and he's a threat in the division. Gane, he's a fantastic athlete. He moves so well. He understands range so well. I've always been impressed how he sets pace with his footwork. He likes to fight at a slower pace, so he likes an outside kickbox matchup, and he just understands a stick and move, punch, L step, push kick, L step, hook, pivot. Like, he's just so good at that. He's good at keeping his opponents not getting in their rhythm by switching the stances, and then attacking when he switches the stances. Very relaxed, very composed, good vision. Very fast hands, accurate, fantastic jab. He also doubles it up. Nice straight shots down the pipe. I like when he can kind of get his opponents to raise the hand and kind of pillar. He'll throw a straight and then wrap the punch around the pillar. Throws combinations when he opens up. He's good at changing the stance, what we talked about earlier, mid combination to land different angles. Some great body work. Not the biggest puncher for the division. He's definitely not a Francis Ngannou or a Derek Lewis, something like that. But he's got plus bar. I mean, you ask like Tai Tuivasa if he can crack. So great kicking game, great front kicks, great body kicks, great leg kicks. I love his stepping knees. He's a better offensive wrestler than he gets credit for. Like, we've seen him in the UFC get some takedowns. The problem is he's got no grappling. Not like, he can land some ground and pound, but he doesn't have a lot of control. And he is a terrible defensive wrestler. And worse, he struggles with body. I mean, we saw that against Francis Ngannou. Francis holding him down. John Jones just smoked him on the ground. I think some of it was inability to grapple with someone at John Jones' level and skill. I also think some of it was the moment. You're facing John Jones, in my opinion, the greatest MMA fighter of all time, and majority of people, or at least, he's at least in the conversation, however you want to say it. I think the moment was a little too big. You're facing the guy that seems invincible. You a lot of pressure. Not that long ago, you lost. But I mean, he also showed some terrible fight IQ. I mean, you go back to the Francis Ngannou fight, people say, "Oh, he's so bad and this and that." Like, he was a maybe don't go for heel hook away from winning the UFC heavyweight, the undisputed heavyweight championship. Now I know there's some debate whether he was going for heel hook or if he was falling off and then he jumped on it in desperation. Whatever. The point is we were in the closing minutes of the fifth round, or 3 minutes, 3.5. I don't know how much was left, and he made a mistake. But my point is, he's 23.5 minutes, 22 and however far it was against Francis Ngannou away from winning the title. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's down to the very end. So take that how you will. Now, Spivak, for a top heavyweight, he's got that Volkan Oezdemir thing going where he's not a great athlete. He just makes it up by being intelligent and gritty. He's not a great striker, but his striking has come a long way. I mean, he's starting to throw jabs. I said it. He beat up Carlos Felipe with a jab. Now, Carlos Felipe is not Ciryl Gane, so that might be the biggest, biggest comparison of all time, or the worst comparison of all time, I should say. Biggest gap in skill on the feet. But he follows 1-2. He would throw some kicks, but they're not threats at all. Very basic kicking game. Defensively, he just covers and he pillars the defense shots, which I hate. Not a lot of movement with the feet. Very stiff kind of guy. But all he does for striking is to close position, where he's a really good wrestler. He likes to go what I like to call slapping titties. He likes chest to chest, and he goes to the clinch. He likes to wear there, wait for a moment, wait for the balance to go off, maybe a foot sweep, or maybe a little cheap knee tap, or just like a, they call the heavyweight snatch single or something like that. Or he likes to go big throws. He loves lateral drops which I hate considering at heavyweight. If you end up on bottom, you're taking a chance to go lateral drop. He also goes for headlocks, which we've seen. He does a good way to do it. He also goes for the what they call the Japanese whizzer, which is different than your traditional fireman's takedown. He'll do something like that. Like he goes for gutsy throws that you don't see a lot in like high level amateur wrestling, but it works for him. He's one of the guys. He's willing to take the chance. He's willing to give up his back and go for one of those throws. He can shoot. He can shoot on the hip. So I don't want to make it seem like he do it. Just not usually not. But you go for like a snatch single. You go back to Derek Lewis fight. He ran right through Derek Lewis. Busy ground pound, and he's a submission threat. He's got 6 up. So this fight is. I mean, this is such a lazy breakdown for me, but I can't see any other way. This fight is not going to be competitive. The problem is I'm not sure who wins.
Yeah, one way or the other, it won't be competitive.
There's only 2 really options. Either I don't expect to see a war, or it's going to the 5th round. I got 2-2 or something like that. Either Gane is too fast, too athletic, picks apart from range, teep kicks him, moves, maybe lands a big shot, like you said, or, jabs him up, and maybe even gets like a late stoppage or something like that. But it's like a one-sided affair. Or, and it's a big or, Spivak closes the distance, throws Gane on his head, and holds him down, and eventually gets a submission.
Absolutely. The thing for me, for me is, honestly, if Gane's team had reached out to me and been like, Clint, we know you like to gamble. We know you're degenerate. You watch a lot of tape. Write us up a game plan to beat this guy. You go, just watch the Tom Aspinall fight. That's it. Every time this guy comes up and tries to body lock you, hands on the shoulders, forearm on the neck, knees to the body. That's it. Like, he crumbles if you do that to him. That's all you got to do. Do not let him clasp his hands. If you let him clasp his hands, you're in trouble. But if you spend 3 months just doing this, just shoving off on guys trying to get to your body lock, he wins the fight. And I don't think Ciryl Gane is so old that he can't make that improvement at 33 years old. And folks, we are now grading him incredibly harshly. Coming off a loss to John Jones. Like, as much as you love Bo Nickel, I hate John Jones equally as much. I'm the biggest John Jones hater on the planet, Keith. Like, the guy is just not someone I'm a fan of, but I have to acknowledge his skill set in the cage. And there's no one like him. No one on this planet has ever been as dominant, or as longevity speaking. I didn't say that right. No one has ever been as dominant, and no one has been around in the sport as long as John Jones has in such a dominant fashion. It's never happened. And now we are looking at this guy and going, because you couldn't survive John Jones grappling, there's no way you can take out a man who has half the athleticism. I'm not buying it.
Yeah,
I'm going to wait for this line to crash as low as it possibly can go, and then I'm betting Ciryl Gane.
I would say I would add one more thing I would tell him besides, stay away from the fence, make sure he doesn't, clasp his hands, post on his head and what they call framing to create space. I'd also add one more detail you forgot, and then hit him in the face really hard.
Yeah.
There's no that hit him hard.
I was saying knees to the body. That was my whole thing.
There you go.
Punish this guy's body. That's it. These big old flabby boys, there's only so much they can take to the gut.
Yeah. I don't know if you know. I never told you this. Side note, I actually met John Jones before he was in the UFC.
Really?
Yeah, it's a crazy story. We're kind of deep in this, but yeah, I met him. He fought a guy named Anthony Ruiz in Worcester, Massachusetts, on a fight card called Ice Fighter, ran by Manny Neves. I'm old school, and I met John Jones. It was this. I was talking to this guy in the back. I was cornering this guy named Jay. I think his name was Jay Bouchard. He was fighting. Then he got knocked out bad. But I was cornering the back, and he was back there forever. And I was talking to this tall, skinny black guy. I have no idea who he is. He tells me about his wrestling. And he's supposed to be the spectacular wrestler. And of course, anybody I've ever met who's told me about the wrestling is always the greatest wrestler. And I go, okay. And then I see him go out, and he throws like 4 punches, grabs guy, belly to belly, suplexes him, and then submits him. I'm like, whoa, like maybe this guy is all right. And then 6 months later, he was in the UFC, John Jones. So, wow. Yeah, look it up. Look at Ice Fighter against Anthony Ruiz.
Yeah,
something like that.
That must be old school because I've never even heard of Ice Fighter.
Ice Fighter, yeah. If you
All
if you look really deep, you'll see my name in there somewhere.
love it. Love it. I
Anyways,
will go check that out.
Ice
Keith,
Fighter.
thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you for
But I get
rocking
John
with me
Jones.
for 2 hours, man.
I'm with you. I'm with Ciryl Gane. I think the John Jones motivation. I think he's gonna really motivate. I think he's gonna get on his bike. I think he's gonna stick a move. I think he's gonna get a late stoppage. I think in the 5th round he's gonna knock him out.
We're sweeping the card, Keith. You're gonna care about every single pick this week because we're sweeping the whole thing.
It. There you go.
Let's go. We're sweeping UFC Paris, baby. Thank you, Keith, for rocking with me for 2 straight hours. Chat, thank you all for hanging out with us. Even though I can hear you screaming in silence, thank you all so much. We're about to wrap this up. Jump in the comments below. Give me all the critiques. Let me know where you're disagreeing with me here on these fights. Make sure you check out Bet Openly. I will populate all the links and stuff like that in the description of the show as soon as we're done. But also make sure you check out Sherdog. Make sure you check out our guy Keith. Give him a follow on social media. His breakdowns are spectacular. One of the reasons why we love having him here on the show. Keith, if there's anything you want to shout out, let the people know what you got going on. Shows coming up, whatever. Go ahead and hit us with it.
Yeah, no, I mean, we do that breakdown. I don't want to promote it too much because I mean, obviously, it's similar to your show. The only thing the only thing I'd really promote is the live recap show. It comes this week. I actually won't be on, but usually it's a much different vibe than this, but it's right after the event. It's on every single week. We're live. We go about 2 hours. We're the deepest recap show there is. We cover every single fight. We're not just ones who talk about the main event and then move on. Obviously, the people who are watching this are obviously diehard MMA fans. So they want to break down.
I think.
Yeah, they want to break down all the way from the first fight to the prelims. We do matchmaking. We do all the fun stuff. So
love it.
Definitely check that show out and check out everything else on Sherdog. Thank you once again for having me.
Okay, thank you very much, my guy. Everybody, thank you all so much for rocking with us tonight. You guys are the best. God willing, this is the week, folks. We could do it this week. We're at 94 units on the year. We just need to bag 6 of them to break the 100-unit profit mark. Would be the first time in my betting life to ever pull some shit like that, and I want it. I want it bad. I'm foaming at the mouth. We're going to get it this week. Let's freaking go. Smash the like button on your way out. Jump in that comment section down below. I will see you guys on Thursday for the total takedown. And of course, on Friday for the undefeated post weigh-in show. And as always, right here, live on Pub Sports Radio, we'll be doing your bet companion stream on Saturday. Thank you all very much. Love you guys. Be good this week. Let's get out there and make some cash. Let's roll. There we go. Why are we not off? I hit the end broadcast button. What the hell?